get started. Does anyone want to get out?
Hello there.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Friday Night Frenzy. I almost said midweek spaz in there. So this is the Phoenix Press, and in my realm, Wonder Bat is canon, Super Wonder is not. Jared can always F off, and everything goes on the Friday Night Frenzy. Let me bring in my guest. First off, the man who brings the heat, Jay Heat.
Flame on! What's up, Nick? How you doing?
How does it feel to have Wonder Bat be canon in this realm?
It feels good, man. It feels good.
All right, next, let's bring the magical girl herself, Wizard
The young
Brain.
maiden.
What is up?
Wizard Brain, can you hear us?
All right, well, she'll join us when she's ready. So, Jay Heat, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yesterday's stream was, man, that went off the rails.
I'm here. Sorry.
It's okay. How you doing, Wizard Brain?
She's lagging right now.
It's okay. But, I think I'm feeling kind of cold in here. I think it's about to snow.
Hey.
Hello.
We made it in time. Woo!
You really did.
Yes. Really did.
So we got a packed house tonight. How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. So I always like to kind of start off the streams, be like, what you've been doing, what you've been playing, just kind of give an update with people. So since me and Jay Heat, we are distinguished gentlemen, ladies first.
Thank you. Who wants to go first? Is there another lady in here?
Yes, Wizard
That'll
Brain.
be me. I can't even read. You're on my phone, and I'm already legally blind, so literally all I'm talking to is like little dots. Potato, you go and do it. Woo!
So, Wizard Brain, why don't you go first?
What am I talking about? I'm sorry.
What you've been doing, what you've been playing, just kind of give an update of like what's been entertaining you this past week.
Oh, I just finished the main story to Hogwarts Legacy, so I just gotta finish up some side quests. I watched Scream 5. I was trying to catch up to that. It's all right. The series, like everything after 4, is pretty much meh. So, I'm trying to plan on the cat. I know that Pokemon with Ash just ended, and I do want to catch up. I want to catch up to that, even though it's like a crap ton of episodes. So that's probably not going to happen until at least a year or two in.
Yeah, that's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I remember watching it as a kid, but then just stopped. You know, it's just like that.
Yeah, like most people.
Yeah. Plan on to finish Metroid Dread and was it Zelda? The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I haven't finished it yet on the Switch.
Finally.
I know, right? I have a habit of starting games, then starting a new one, and forgetting about the other one. So I have like a pile of not a pile. I at least have 6 games that I started but never finished. So yeah, I'm one of those people. Okay, all right, I'm done for now.
All right, Snow. What have you been up to? What you been watching? What you been playing?
Well, first of all, congratulations to her for getting all the Link stuff done. I have never. Okay, this is a confession time. I have never played Legend of Zelda. I have never played any of it.
I'm sorry. We had to remove the heretic. I'm just. That was a joke.
I have always been too busy playing Halo and Fallout and all the Dragon Age, all of those. And
okay.
And
here's
so,
here's a question,
Yeah.
and this will determine if you can stay on the stream.
What?
Is New Vegas the best Fallout game?
okay,
Oh no.
I'm going to go with this. I'm sorry. I love New Vegas. Don't get me wrong. I love New Vegas. If you're talking about the DLC, yes, Honest Hearts would be the apex of Fallout storytelling. However, as far as the overall game, I'm going to go with Fallout 3 because I honestly believe that when you first go into this thing and it's the first time you play it and you play all the way through and you realize you have to die to complete the quest, that to me is such an iconic moment in gaming. It's to me that I can't top that. So I'm going to have to say, I'm sorry if you disagree, but Fallout 3 to me as an overall game is the best one.
I
No.
will admit it's a unique experience because you're accepting the dread of the situation,
Yes.
and it's a literal no win. Now that can be dissatisfying to some people. How like I go for all this, I go for the grind, side quests included, and I literally get the worst ending conventionally possible.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
if you have the super mutant companion, you could have him go in there because he's a super mutant. Radiation just helps him.
If you're doing Brotherhood of Steel, which I had loaded in, and I asked Sharon to do it for me.
Oh, Nix, you poor soul.
I know it. No, he's my buddy. Everywhere I go, I take him with me. In fact,
Nix, I just
You poor soul.
I love him. Great.
Or that abomination of Fallout 76.
I have not. I have not. I live so far in the backwoods, and this is where I really divert. So I don't have great. I've never had great coverage. I'm always lagging, dropping signals. So I've never been able to do multiplayer. So I've always been just kind of a solo person. And so I didn't get into Fallout 76. I didn't do Fallout 4 even because I was still playing. I'm still playing on my PS3 because I refuse to give up my games. I don't want to put them online. In fact, I had gone in. I was trying to download a DLC for one of the Dragon Ages. And suddenly it shows up, oh, you can't do that anymore because we closed the store. Fortunately, I had everything on disc. So I was able to load what I did have. But I was just like, I just decided a long time ago, I'm going old school. I'm going hard. And so I play usually I play in bullet sponge mode when I get to that point where I just want to blow stuff. And since I started writing the series, I haven't had time to really game the way I normally do. So what I do is usually once in the summer, I'll sit down and do a dedicated run through on games. This summer, my goal is to finish all the DLCs in Skyrim because I have never finished all the DLCs.
Oh god, that's a grind. That is a grind.
No, I know.
I mean, the DLCs there's not because like really in essence there's really only two DLCs because the homesteading DLC is basically a stuff pack for Skyrim that lets you build
It's
a
pretty
house.
much.
Basically because the vampire DLC there's a quest line to it, but like the real meaty DLC, the Dragonborn one where you go to Soulsign. The vampire one, it's basically just a quest line and like a few new areas, whereas Dragonborn gives you a full new continent and like you get to go back to Morrowind kind of thing.
Well, and that's what I'm kind of looking at. I really want to actually go back, and I haven't finished all of Oblivion. I've never played all of Morrowind. I started in on Skyrim, and it was about when I'm always behind on my games, so it's like 4 years after they get released. So I'm like, whatever. I'll go play. I know, and I'm sorry. I have life that's happening, so I usually go in and I play with stuff.
In my defense, I only was able to play Spider-Man like a few months ago because I waited for it to come to PC. I actually wasn't sure if it would ever come to PC. Yeah. And then I waited for it to go on sale, and I actually got it for like $30 or something. Like actually pretty good deal, honestly.
Nothing wrong for waiting the game to go on sale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
My goal this summer, I'm either going to do the DLCs on Skyrim. I also have not completed the entire Doom series. I played the fool out of the original. Totally. I did the whole thing, did all the levels, all the stuff, found all the Easter eggs. And so then I have Doom 2, Doom 3, and all that. And I'm really
Doom Eternal.
And I need to get
Oh boy.
I'm making myself play the other ones first because I'm really bad about getting something and just jumping to, right into the latest one, skipping all the lore in between.
That's my I'm bad at that. I jumped into Doom Eternal first, then I jumped into
Keep going.
I don't. No, it's like, yeah, I'm one of those guys. Like, no, I want the most.
That is such a noob move.
I know.
be
I'm not
fair-
like, oh man, this rocks. So then after I finished Doom Eternal, then that's when I went back to the previous games, and I'm like, oh man, how did I miss all this?
To be fair, Doom
Oh.
2016 is kind of a soft reboot of the series. So
That is
like
true.
you could play 2016. Like obviously there are references and whatnot, and kind of thing. But like you don't need to play the previous games to truly understand Doom 2016. But Doom
Yeah.
Eternal is a sequel to that game, so you really should play Doom 2016 before Doom Eternal. Both are just amazing games, honestly.
Yeah, and I've got
Yes, I love it. I love Doom.
I love it because that's what I'm and being a hardcore fan of Doom ever since it first came out, because y'all know I'm old. Okay, so everybody knows how old I am. I'm super old. I'm like older than dirt. I'm older than anybody's mama and your grandma and everybody else.
But you do not look it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel it. Though.
I thought you were old enough to be my younger sister, so.
No. I am old enough to be your mom's mom, probably. I am 60 years old. For those who are listening, 60 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. Serious note here. You're about the same age as my mother, so.
Really? No, my mom had me late, so I'm used to people being in their 30s when they have their kids. But yeah, so when I started playing Doom, it was like it just came out and I was on PC. And so for a long time, I was a hardcore PC gamer. And I would, it's all I played Descent, I played Doom. I started off with gaming when I was back doing Pong. So literally, I was Atari. I did Zork on Amiga, buddy. Yeah, Zork is a whole other too, and it's really awesome.
Don't go in the maze.
I know it's one of those things where you're like, okay, so now when I go into game, because I've started writing, and so much of my storylines are based on experiences I've had as a gamer, and to put Easter eggs in, there's a lot of references to games. So there's a lot of references to Fallout. There's some references to Doom. There's some references, and the coolest part is when I went to BaseCon last year, we had a special guest, and we didn't really know he was coming, and it was John Carmack. And if you don't know who John Carmack is, yes, John Carmack came to BaseCon. And I didn't know it was him. I heard he was going to be there. And he had this big long thing about AI, and he was doing this stuff. And I came in late because I'd been sick. And he came up and he started talking to me. He bought the entire series of Watcher of the Damned. He came up to me and started fangirl. I was like,
John Carmack was a fan of you?
yes. And so,
Oh my God, please take this crown, Queen.
I got me with John Carmack.
Snyder Queen has been deposed.
I know. So cool. It was so cool because I knew exactly once I recognized I was like, holy cow, this is the guy that I gave you like 5 years of my life in gameplay. And so that was like, and I love it so much. So it was so much fun to talk to him about all of his concepts for how he came up with this stuff and everything. And because it's so iconic, so the series has a bunch of gaming references in it. So when I'm writing the series, because there's like 18 books of this thing. It's like the Conan the Barbarian of the modern age. And so all these books. So I have to write them first, because the more I game, the more I kind of sort of slip it in. You're like, hey, there's a reference.
That's what she said.
What?
Come on, man. There are women present. Knock it off.
But yeah, so I have to be really careful, because I know that the more I game, like Red Dead Redemption, I love that. There's another one called Kingdom of Loathing. I don't know if y'all have ever played it. It's super old. It's like the old school, and it's sort of like just a stickman, text-based figure stuff.
Watcher, have you played Kingdom Come Deliverance?
No, I have not.
If you like, I think you should play it.
I highly recommend it.
Since you said you like games like Skyrim and Fallout.
Yeah, and Blood.
Yeah, it's basically kind of like a Skyrim-esque game, except it is 100% reality-based. There's no magic, and it's based off of real medieval history.
Sweet. No,
it's like a medieval life simulator, but like there's this whole kind of storyline. Is real. It's a more of a modern PC game. It came out during like the PS4 generation. I mean, I think you'd really like it.
I always wanted to play that, and I haven't. I can't. Wait.
It's really good. It's really good.
I don't have a PS4. If we all did a game series,
it's on PC.
It is on PC.
Yeah, that's the reason why I couldn't play. I was like, I watch games I can't play because it's either on PC or PlayStation.
Yeah, I'm all the way now. I have a Sega that I have all my stuff on, and I still got my original Nintendo 64 sort of setup, and I love and I love the games on that. But they've gotten to where you have to keep on blowing on them every time to make them do it. They get that blink thing going, so I can't play it. So I started consoles, or I've got a museum of consoles. And so I just started, after my daughter had gotten the PS4 and she wasn't really super happy with it, and then PS5 is like all online. So I was like, nah, I'm just going to stick with PS3. So everything I've got now is like PS3. So,
I still have my PS3.
Now,
and shout out to Pika Shades, who just finished his Sonic Frontiers Part 2 playthrough.
But now, do any of y'all run Linux?
I have run Linux in the past. I do like it. I'm fine with it.
That's my only real problem with doing gaming online right now. So it's the streaming, and then the fact that I'm running Linux. I run Steam, but there's a lot of them that I want to play. Like I want to do Fallout, A Tale of Two Wastelands. I really wanted to do that, where it links Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas, and you can take your whole party with you all the way through. Mm-hmm. Have any of y'all played that yet?
No, I've never really got into the modding scene much. I did some modding for Skyrim.
Cool. Yeah. And so I've thought about doing that, but since I'm on Linux, it makes it harder for me to convert it. And I know there's the whole wine thing and everything like that, but I've just never gotten to the point where I felt confident enough to do it, because I would always end up crashing something. So I'm probably I'm going to be finishing writing up this. This is going to take me the next couple of years to really write this series. But when I get finished, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do some of the mods and some of the games that I have never done yet, like Half-Life, which I've not done. Portals, I haven't done it.
Have you Fallout? What about Fallout New Frontier? It's a New Vegas mod.
I haven't played it yet. I think Fallout New Frontier actually is part of the same group. Nexus, I think, did Fallout New Frontier. I think, I'm not sure, but they also did that Tale of Two Wastelands, and I think that would be a lot of fun to do a Fallout if we could get it online or something like that, to go in and play it.
Yeah. Because like you got these multiplayer mods that have been coming out for like things like Skyrim, Fallout, and whatnot, where you do that.
No,
I've watched a lot of. I watched a lot of Skyrim mods, but I haven't done any for Las Vegas. I haven't done any for Fallout though.
Really? Okay. What's your favorite one? I told you what my favorite Fallout was. Y'all have to tell me yours now.
New Vegas.
Probably yes. I was gonna say it's. No, really, Jared. Where is Jared? Is he over there? Is that Shot? Okay, that's Shot. Who else is on? Who else do I have on screen over here? I'm trying to see.
Okay, so we have me, then you, Wizard Brain, and then Jay Heat.
Jay Heat. Okay, good. I was like Shot. I was like,
yeah. Jay Heat's been pretty quiet. So Jay Heat, what you been playing? What you been watching? Please tell the audience.
Well, I've mostly been playing Raid Shadow Legends, so quick promo to that game. That was pretty solid. And
how much they pay you to say that?
Not enough. But I've also been playing SWTOR. I haven't been able to stream directly because of their new update. I might have to use my second computer for that.
Okay.
But mostly I've just been kind of like playing more retro games.
Oh, really? What you been playing?
I've mostly been playing like Mega Man, Commodore 64 with my cousin. He's a big retro gaming fan.
Oh yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
My mom used to. I have a weird family. My mom was like older. I won't say elderly because she'll come back home from Jesus and slap me in the next week. But she would play Mega Man, and it was like she loved it so much. Like at the ending, I think it was Mega Man 2. Where he flies through the air and all the scenes go by, and he's like, and takes off his helmet at the end. And she was like, "Oh, this is so wonderful." She cried at the end. It was awesome. So yeah, if I could go back and play any series, I probably actually would play Mega Man again. Just
now, okay.
I must say we are talking about like slipping video game references into our works. I wanted to show you guys something.
Ooh.
This is from a novel that I've been working on. R.H. Snow has been reading it.
Yay!
Oh yeah, love novels. Love. Is it your first novel or just like something? You've just been. I mean, I know it's like something because how I'm writing a novel too, but it's like my first thing I ever actually put like a lot of effort into.
Yeah. This is the first one that I completed and whatnot,
Yeah, it's good too.
So basically, I'm just going to kind of read this quick. My heart was a bit out of practice with this sort of thing, as it had only recently begun beating again. The walls that strangled it were were crumbled, laying beneath the acid rains of Venus. I sighed, then let myself loose. We are our own greatest foes, kid. What makes us great is the same thing that ultimately seals our fate, I said, gesturing to the strafe marks all around us, something that could only come from aircraft artillery. For war never changes.
I read that. I saw
He
it.
had the plate just above his knapsack when I finished my spiel, the kid's head snapping to attention as he realized what I just said, a huge grin breaking out on his face. Never figured you for a Fallout fan, honestly. Not only do I make the reference, I even call myself out.
That was great. No, I read that and I was like, I know what you're doing. So
Mhm. So is it
I
like
think-
a thing based on your life or something? If I'm correct.
no, it's a sci-fi fantasy novel.
Oh, okay.
Basically, I'm doing like a fantasy novel, but set in space kind of thing.
Ah,
Yeah, it's basically, like the hero's journey formula.
yes, I do.
I'm doing the hero's journey, but from the mentor's point of view. So imagine Star Wars, but from Obi-Wan's perspective.
Yeah, and
Now that's different.
it works out really well because I almost is like deconstructing Han Solo. It's like doing a deep dive. There's so many parts to where I felt like it was sort of like he reminded me of an older, more broken Han Solo. Because we first meet Han, he's just really cocky. In fact, he really doesn't get to that broken part until we see him in the last one where he dies. I just forgot.
Oh.
Yeah, and so
I mean, she's lucky. I didn't get the. Yeah, do you just share that? I'm just share that with friends. I would like to read it.
yes,
All right, I can send you a copy then. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
y'all are
I
gonna.
mean, is it done or is it in
The
progress
first-
of working?
The first draft is done, so if you read it, it'll be a complete story. It still needs to be edited. I'm kind of a little bit too poor for an editor right now, so yeah.
No, I understand. My novel is not finished. I'm currently writing in a bunch of error grammar, so I already know that.
So it's the first draft is done, which any novels will tell you is about 60% of the work.
Uh-huh.
Did I get my percentages right? Oh,
It's really hard.
I'm just winging mine and
and
hoping for the best.
MM, do you mean like Mega Man? Oh, Majora's Mask. Actually, yes, I did. In Product Access in the side story, there's actually a Majora's Mask reference in it. So,
So, Nick, do you actually have these also written into 2100 Samurai?
the references.
Yeah, like do you have something like that in there? The gamer things and stuff like that.
Actually, yes. Let me just go look up the script for issue 3, the one that's coming out. I'm going to give you a preview of a scenario that I've had this scene in mind for over 15 years.
Oh wow!
200 Samurai is actually a really old IP of mine. And let's see here, Redux 4, that should do it. So this is issue 3. You guys are getting a preview of a comic that's going to be hitting in Indiegogo here next month. So
please sign up. Link will
Yes.
be in the description.
Actually,
I would if I could.
before I do that, let me just kind of grab the link real quick. And just kind of put that on the screen. But yeah, let's see here.
Do it.
Yeah, do it.
I'm gonna go home and do it.
I'll definitely well, never mind. I was gonna say I'll definitely share it, but I didn't realize I didn't remember.
All right.
Yeah, I've got it up on the Twitter page. I mashed it.
All right. Here we go. Just let's see if you guys can. I'm gonna read page 17 to you guys. Let's see if you pick up on the reference. Page 17. Kiro and Tyler are walking back up to the brothel. Kiro is swiveling his head back and forth, looking for threats. Tyler's head shoots up from her thoughts. Ahead of them is a skinny blonde arguing with a police officer. He has a patch with the number 12 on his shoulder. But what the? Ashley, but Sergeant, we already paid Unit 13 for the month. Sergeant 12 scoffs at her plea. Hey, I'm just doing my job. You give me that Juris my diction crap. You can cram it up your ass. Ashley tilts her head back in laughter. The sergeant looks on in disgust. No thanks. I've had nothing's crammed up my ass for one day, thank you very much.
Ouch.
No, it's this line that's the reference. Have you guys seen The Matrix?
Yes.
Yes.
The opening scene.
Oh my gosh.
I kind of just expanded it.
That is so cool. I kept on listening to 12 and I was like, Vault 12. I was like,
No, it's like the police unit and whatnot.
That's
But
cool.
yeah. So
That is so cool. That little bitty old Easter eggs. It's little stuff like that I love. When I'm reading somebody else's work, you get a chance to get inside their head, their world. And one of the reasons we want to write what we know to a certain extent, I mean, you can't write fantasy and write everything you know. You have to have something different and something crazy.
mm-hmm.
The experience of the characters and the experience of the author all sort of come together, and there's little pieces and parts. And when you really get inside a great book and you're looking at these little tiny references that show up, you're seeing the history of that human being. Like you talked about origin stories. And so like an origin story for Wizard Brain basically is going to show up in Wizard Brain's book. And,
All right. So this is the reference, by the way.
let me see it.
Lieutenant, you were given specific orders. Hey, I'm just doing my job. You give me that Juris my diction crap
Oh, that's great.
up your ass. Are you okay?
Yep. So that I did that.
That is great.
I will say
Yeah.
I mostly did it just because of like the second part, because like it's a brothel. I just thought it would be really funny for like a woman to say, no thanks, I've had nothing's crammed up my ass for one day, thank you very much. It's like I just thought it was just such a macabre joke
Yeah, it is.
for her to say it so matter-of-factly, because like they work at a brothel, so
No, it's
draw
fine.
your own conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely witty. I give you props for that. Yeah.
Oh, that's not the only time I do like those kind of jokes. There's actually another joke that I'm looking forward to writing issue 5, where one of the characters is like, "Hey, Ashley, can you take over for a moment?" She pops out from her cubicle, be like, I'm kind of busy right now," and then they're like, "We'll finish it up." And the next panel, you hear, "Ah!" She walks out and says, "Put some ice on it, you'll be fine."
Ouch.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
Yeah,
that is actually a reference to Robin Hood Men in Tights, the scene towards the end.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but
Robin Hood Men in Tights. I'm gonna have to actually go and watch it.
You-
I saw
you
real
need to.
Robin and I saw that. I saw real thing.
yeah, I'm probably like because is the main character of your book based on your life, or is it just like someone you made up and you're like taking yourself completely out of it, like type of thing?
Probably the latter, I'd say.
Mm.
Like I said, the genesis of it was the Sega genesis of it was
Dun, dun, dun.
Sega. But no, the genesis of it was two things. One, the hero's journey. Oh, Bard, what's up, buddy? He's a good buddy of mine.
Hey,
Yes,
Bard.
you finally made a screen. Happy to hear you here. And then we got the Spore Hacker. Ooh. Oh, Prog Metal concert. Who'd you go see? Oh, this.
Hero.
Akiko.
Yeah, he was really good in the last stream. But no, it was two things. One, like I said, the hero's journey, but also I wanted to create a character where like you make, because like choice is something that if you look through a lot of my work is predominated by the concept of choice and regret. Basically, I wanted to kind of explore the ideas of a character who made a choice, the wrong one, and the ramifications of it, you know, because you have this character where he was the head of the royal guard, you know, kind of like like the head of the King's Guard, if you will. A Barris and Selmy kind of character, Jamie Lannister, but yeah, that kind of, you know, connotations. So basically, you had this usurper. Like you had like this usurper kind of thing where it's like you had this old king, and so the king passes away, and you have this baby. But then you have this acknowledged bastard who's like kind of like 15, 20-ish, young. And people want him to be the king. And there's also some questions about this little child's legitimacy. So the night the capital falls and the king dies, Just, so his full name is Justin Lamont, which I named him after one of my first Castlevania character. I have to point this out. So Legend of the Brave Bard says Lady Snow is looking quite enchanting today.
Thank you. That's so sweet. I wore browns. I just figured, I was sort of chilling today.
You look like a fairy princess. Let me just say that.
Thank you. My kids dressed me.
Well, they did a good job.
Thanks. People just show up with clothes. They're like, "Hey, wear this." So I ended up with stuff that sparkles, and I'm like, "Hey, I could wear this today," because it was like sort of perk it up. I had on brown. It's like, okay, I'll wear that.
And yes, for Hacker, Castlevania is always good. But yeah, so
definitely.
it's like the night the capital fell, he basically fled like a coward. He basically he abandoned everything that he stood for, all his morals, everything. He did like a highly dishonorable act, and he fled in the Royal Starship. There's this really great scene where they're on the launch pad. It's like a sci-fi launch pad, but it's in like a castle courtyard. So you got like the sci-fi fantasy mix. You got the queen who shows up. And by the way, the queen's maiden name is Brianna Spencer.
Ooh.
I don't know if you guys get that reference.
That sounds familiar.
It's a real life person.
Well, now there's Spencer's used to be a part of the royal family. That's why far back.
Diana.
Oh, Diana Spencer. Oh, okay. So Brianna is Diana.
She's yes, Princess Diana.
That's
Yes.
what I wanted to say that, but I didn't want to sound stupid. I'm like, you get completely wrong.
You did good.
Yes. And then so basically they have like this kind of like thing on the launch pad, and then oh, Geek Hero, Bubba, I love you. But yeah, so and she's like, hey, take the child, at least take the child, He's like, no, and he like kind of denies her. It's a really beautiful scene. Like I could just see them putting it up there verbatim, like, oh.
I think it's going to work out well because he's a very compelling.
You read that scene, by the way. That was like the opening scene, so you read that one. Can you comment on that scene?
Yes, I love it because it was sort of backwards to what we usually expect, and we're getting a chance to see that deconstruction. Like I said, not a deconstruction of a hero, but the reconstruction of a person who has pretty much hit rock bottom in their lives, and because the tools they have, and everybody has to go through that as a human being.
The formation of this book was really interesting because the thing about mentor characters is they're always defined by their backstory. Like they're always defined by what came before. So the fact that I specifically made the protagonist the mentor, that what that means is I kind of had to work backwards a little bit. So I had to create like this whole entire backstory of like a very detailed thing. Because by the way, this takes place in the 4000s. Like Earth has been abandoned for like 2,000 years.
Oh wow!
Basically, people have kind of settled around the solar system. Mars is kind of the new Earth. You got like the moons and like, kind of things like basically you got people going to like Io, Europa, there is a sequence set on Earth and sorry, go ahead, Snow.
No, yeah, there was a lot of different ones that I saw. And since I love space anyway, and I love studying space. And so it's fun to see those references to not real world, real places and real things. I think that it's kind of fun because we sort of gotten away from that sometimes where everybody just makes up everything. You don't really have that reference to the actual solar system and the Kuiper belts and the asteroid belts and everything like that and what it really means to travel through space. And so I love when you put all that stuff in there. It's kind of like getting to actually explore our own solar system. which would be the first step.
Yeah, and like we're talking about references, like for example, did you notice, like, did you catch the Drifter Colony reference?
Yes, I was looking at it. I was like,
Titan AE.
Uh-huh.
Because like there's Drifter colonies in Titan AE, so I just put them in my thing. So
Yeah,
basically, you got the Sol system, and then you got the Alpha Centauri system, which is basically kind of like the equivalent of like the Wild West. And in between the Sol system and Alpha Centauri are like a series of Drifter colonies. They're kind of like wild, like outposts kind of thing. So yeah, there's tons of references. So some, you know.
Yeah, your story already sounds like 10 times better than mine.
Oh, talk about yours, Wizard. I'm dabbing my eyes. It's so beautiful. I had to cry at it. Okay, so you're going to talk about yours, Wizard. So come on.
Oh no, I don't know if I can.
Do it.
All right. We all know vampires are overdone, so I was trying to do something different. Whereas where the protagonist is like a human, but she's also like a demi, so she's like vampire demi thing.
So Dampier.
Yeah, like pretty much like a hybrid between. I originally started this book with my best friend when I was 13 years old, and we wanted to do a typical vampire human romance, but then it evolved from that. So what's gonna happen now is where I think I'm gonna get rid of the romance and just make the vampire a mentor, pretty much, to avoid the stereotype, pretty much. Because every time I'm getting sick of it, where it's just like, oh, okay. So I'm gonna make him a mentor, and my goal with my book overall is like, even though she's a female protagonist, I am going to pretty much set her up to fail, because
that's good.
I think with certain vampire stories, the female protagonist is like too protected and almost like always saved, and or is overpowered. You know, like where yeah.
Kind of like in the Skyrim world, where the female vampires are so incredibly powerful, and they just seem to exude. Now, of course, the main dude is like a dude, but when we think of female vampires, we think of them as being so incredibly alluring that they have these powers that nobody can really escape it.
Well, it's because of one reason. It's because men have two brains and only enough blood to run one at a time. So that's why male vampires are inherently weaker.
That's right.
Nah, boo.
Bad joke is bad.
That's why I'm making him a mentor, because I do not want to weaken my male vampire. That is a trap that has been done over and over again.
Be careful, it's a trap.
Yeah, I don't know how Phoenix feels about I know we both love Castlevania, game, but I don't know how he feels about the the animation from Netflix. I mean, I know
I've never seen
season 1 was okay. Season 2 is all right. I don't know. I
like it. I do have like basically, I would on a scale of 1 to 10, the entire series, I'd probably give it a 7. Like it's solid. But it has a lot of flaws.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely loved season 1.
Yeah,
season 2, I don't know how to feel about. I don't know how to feel about it yet.
I like this is probably gonna sound like a prude, but like they curse so much. It's like it feels like a 12-year-old.
Oh yeah, it definitely weighs that down. Definitely, yeah.
Like I do like the thing is, I don't really mind how they depicted Trevor, because he's kind of like a down on his but when he does step up, oh my god, that like does he step up? But like I know one people pointed out where like how when Sypha kind of takes charge, he just kind of lets her, because Sypha's a better organizer, you know, and I think I don't really think that's girl bossy of Sypha. It's just she's more of a naturally capable leader. Like I basically see the show as like a D&D campaign, and Sypha is like the party mom, you know. And so she's naturally more of like the organizer leader type, and I think Trevor recognizes that. So I don't really see that as, because Trevor still does stuff. He's still like my metric of a truly good, strong female character is, do they take away from the men? Like do they have to trample the men in order to be strong? And you see that a lot.
That's my goal, to actually prop up the male vampire like they used to do back in the good old days.
Yeah.
But so that's what I want. Yeah.
Sorry, like he said, vampire ladies, and we're talking about Castlevania, and my mind went to Lenore. So it's like, even though her storyline is cringy, it's just like she hits like every attractive metric for me, and it's like she's redhead, she's sultry, like she's smart. It's like
just the right.
Like I'm sorry, even I would simp for her. I'm sorry, like I'm not sorry. Just like he hits like every like.
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with. A part of me wants to keep her, the main character, a demi between, a hybrid between a human and a vampire, and another part of me just wants to like have something happen to her where she just becomes a full vampire. I just don't know if I should or not. Like,
go for it, because I say go for it. Stick to your gut. I mean, I used to be a bit of a writer myself. I stopped in recent years.
I mean, honestly, if I were you. The thing is, I think really what vampire fiction is lacking is we're just kind of waiting for someone to bring back vampires to kind of like their classic state. Like
no, that's what my goal is. Yeah.
Honestly, just do kind of more like the 80s vampires, like Lost Boys, where it's like the eternal youth, the party thing, like even bringing it back to that. Because right now, I still feel like we're kind of in like a Twilight, like. People really haven't gone past, like, even 15 years on, I feel like we haven't gotten past the Twilight stage of vampires. Like,
definitely not. No.
We either need to evolve vampires or just go back to an earlier state. Like,
what was really the appeal of Twilight? Wasn't it just a glorified dogfight from beginning to end?
Yeah, it was far more like 16 girls. I'll admit, when I was 16 and dumb, I liked it. I mean, obviously, when I'm older now, I realized how dumb it was. And it's just
you let it be what it is. It was a romance and a fanfic for basically for teens and young women, but it has its own place.
Yes.
Vampires.
That is true.
Darkness that we're missing in the vampire. The vampire darkness. It's actually there is a thread of a certain amount of evil in there, and you have to fight that. You say, what happens when a good person becomes a person that might do these things? And we've lost that allure of the dark, the horror part.
Not enough little sisters crying.
Oh yeah, my goal, my stomach definitely gets really fucking dark at one point. All I'm gonna say is pretty much my main character pretty much loses everybody at one point.
Ow.
Like pretty much, yeah. I mean, we're like that's
talking about like the Twilight stuff. The way that like it's been explained to me by several of my female friends is basically Bella is written as to be the most blankest of the blank slate character as possible. So basically, it's kind of like psychologically manipulative to where you are supposed to put yourself in Bella's shoes, to where Bella is not getting romanced by Edward. Chrissy, the woman reading it, is getting romanced by Edward. It's and the thing is, if you actually go back and read Harry Potter does the same thing as well, where like he's described, but not like pretty plainly, where like you're supposed to put yourself in Harry's shoes, and I myself know that like when I read Harry Potter, I certainly put myself in his shoes.
But I think that the difference is that Harry Potter, there's still a description of who Harry is. You identify with Harry. Bella is
true.
Blank character. She has nothing. And in fact, the same thing happens with the fanfic 50 Shades of Grey. It's a blank character. Just writing it as basically you're just cosplaying in this book's shoes. It's like a write your own adventure story, except somebody's written it for you.
Obligatory mention that 50 Shades of Grey was originally Twilight fanfic. I mean, we all know it, but
we know it.
I have to say it and mention it.
And so that's the reason. That blank character, we have only two extremes with women and literature, it seems like right now. We either have this hugely overpowered woman that does everything and then the magic falls on her and the abilities fall on her and she whoops a 200-pound guy and she does all this stuff, or everybody immediately calls her the queen and it's all awesome. or we have just a blank character that doesn't have any history. They don't have any kids. They don't have anything else in their lives. They don't have failures and heartbreak. It's just,
So basically, Rey Skywalker. Basically,
they basically exist for the duration of the story, and then they poof back out of existence.
That's right. And there's nothing there. And even with Skywalker, he has a certain amount of a storyline. He is the farm boy. You can only go so young and give somebody a big backstory. There's always that little bit of innocence there. But
yeah, like that's something that like the New Hope was actually really good about, really characterizing Luke, where it's like, you know, he wanted to get off the rock. He was kind of bored, he wasn't the life of a farm boy. Like, people tend to dog Lucas in his writing, but like, here's the thing about Lucas. He's probably the best. He's probably one of the best world builders to ever exist.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he wasn't really that good at dialogue. But he was a good plotter. Like, he could plot a movie.
Yeah.
He knew structure, but he couldn't really write convincing dialogue, and his characterizations sometimes fell flat. And also, Nix is correct.
Luke is better than Rey, always. Now, I will say this about Rey. Now, say what you will about product by committee, but I feel like they wanted to make an attempt to break away from the Skywalkers being the main focal point. It was just executed
and instead they made her Skywalker anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there are multiple stories where the Skywalkers aren't a factor. You have Starkiller, you have Jedi Academy, you have a lot of prequel stories with Qui-Gon Jinn. There's a way to make a story, tell Star Wars stories that's not completely revolved around Anakin, Luke, or any of the Skywalker family. It's just, what's the best way to say it? The Skywalkers give you a foundation to work with. Everything else is secondary. So you really have to make these characters stand out if you're going to give them their own story and setting.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Wizard Brain. I was interrupting you.
Yeah, I mean, like, before Mando went all to shit, I thought the introduction to Luke Skywalker was awesome. I just think, I think you can bring back original character, but it's only in a little time frame, like maybe like little glimpses or something, like just like, because if you linger on them for too long, it starts to lose the magic pretty quickly. So
that's a fair point.
Unfortunately, they didn't. I mean, they did that, but did it wrong. Where they did that Nobody Kenobi series where they didn't have Grogu stay with Luke Skywalker, and that's where it all went down the shithole. Yeah. That's where I think one of the writers, his name is escaping me right now. I think that's one of the writers pretty much gave up, which explains Mando season 3, because it makes no sense. Like it's like 2 seasons were totally awesome and had, I thought, wonderful dialogue and wonderful characters and a good Mando, and then all of a sudden, it's just like as if they just like it just done a 360. It just doesn't, it makes.
It wasn't okay. Wizard Brain, I hate to cut you off. What you're describing is dynamic shift. A dynamic shift where you go from following one character to another in the core ensemble over the course of the storyline. Yeah. Season 2 was way more balanced in this aspect, but season 3 you get through like 2 solid episodes of season, 1 transition episode, and then you go straight to Bo-Katan the rest of the way, with episode 5 kind of being fluff. And next, where did they try to make Obi-Wan buying Kenobi? I did not. I might not have noticed.
It's basically something that like the creators talked about, and then the news picked up on it, like the vultures they are.
Oh, okay. Yep. but to get back to my main point, Bo-Katan pretty much takes over from episode 4 onward, and there's nothing wrong, but you have to. The best way to do it was to have Jin and Mando and Bo-Katan be side by side, not one just subjugate to the other. That would have created a more balanced dynamic.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening, because I liked all the episodes in season 3 besides the I call it the Alice in Wonderland episode, where everything was just colorful, ugly headdress and a tail, and pretty much was like,
Are you talking about the filler episode or the celebrity guest episode 5?
Yeah, episode 5 where it had Jack Black and Lizzo.
Okay,
Um,
episode 5. That
yeah,
I like to
that
call
one,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Say this,
I
coming
mean,
outsider's viewpoint. When did they let go of Gina Carano?
Late
Season,
episode season 1. Late season 1.
she was in
Mhm.
season 2. She was in season 2.
Yeah, it's in season 2. And when you have that kind of dump where you go, oh, we're going to get rid of this character because we don't like something they said and we don't like those fans doing this. We've seen the same thing where you're literally going, we don't want the fans to think this and we don't want those fans. So you get rid of that with that dynamic shift. Suddenly you're changing it from this very strong character that's very popular with the fans, and you're saying, oh, we're going to immediately shift this all away. So this isn't about the story they wrote, because the story they wrote actually was based around Gina's strongly around Gina, one of Gina's characters. And so you have this whole storyline that they immediately dump because they decided
Rangers,
to get,
literally an entire series, Rangers of the New Republic.
yes. And
Yep.
so you throw it away because they don't want people to think that because you're coming into an election season or whatever, and suddenly you had the wrong message. So you get rid of your storyline, you get rid of your star, you basically change the whole thing.
What's crazy
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
reason, like they talk, like the whole reason they got rid of Gina Carano was he posted a meme about people being divided.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
he kind of enacted Godwin's law, but
Yeah.
like
No, yeah, where
She
she
said
went
it-
wrong, she tried to compare
Poor
what
choice
was
of
it,
words,
conservatives?
basically.
Yeah,
but it's not
very-
so, like here's the thing. No matter if we can all agree she probably shouldn't have said it, that's not something you get fired over. Like,
Oh,
like
I
definitely
agree.
not. No,
I agree.
Pedro
no.
Pascal says worse things on a daily basis, first and
Oh,
foremost.
yep. Mhm.
And then the worst part is, literally in season 3, Bo-Katan says something very similar to what Gina was trying to say. So like my thing is like, what the hell? And also, Spore Hacker, you sleep well. Thank you for stopping by.
And
No,
I
it's
do want to
definitely
go back to
provided-
Bubba's I hate to cut you off, but I do want to go back to Bubba's comment. What happened to Christopher? What happened to who played Luke and who played Anakin the Phantom Menace? What happened to him was a clash of fan expectations, not so much a dynamic shift. Did they make Anakin too young? Yes, but a lot of that just boiled down to George Lucas going through a bitter divorce at the time and being surrounded by a bunch of yes men.
Well,
So
actually, the divorce was final around the time of a Return of the Jedi. Like, that's when actually the divorce was finalized, by the way. Yeah. Because the thing is, he actually did do a lot of stuff during the 80s. Like George Lucas was pretty active during the 80s. Like, he did Willow, Howard the Duck, a lot of stuff. And he produced a lot of stuff. Like, and also in the early 90s, he, like, for example, George Lucas was a special effects supervisor on Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Because the
Oh,
thing
yeah.
you don't realize is Spielberg was making Jurassic Park and Schindler's List at the same time. And so he needed someone to help out with special effects. And who better than George Lucas, you know?
Yeah, and that actually is where he's shown. He actually, when we look at A New Hope is everything that George Lucas was good at. He did the special effects. He came up with all of these different things. He had a great, and the difference between writing dialogue and a novel, and you've seen this, Nick, when you're trying to write dialogue, it's tough. And writing it for a screenplay is that there's a whole different pace. It's very clipped. You can you improvise, do other things. You can let your actors come up with stuff. All the things that he was great at all come together in A New Hope, and it's the reason it's still my favorite.
Well, the thing about it kind of goes back to what Jay Heat said. You know, he's kind of surrounded by yes men. That actually was a big problem for the prequels, because if you go back to the sequel trilogy, yes. Wait, we got a wizard brain there. We got a wizard brain here. Do we have a wizard brain everywhere?
Hey.
Oh, I think her connection cut out. That wasn't her, you know, whatever. But like, it's just funny. Thing is, during A New Hope, Lucas was actually surrounded by people who told him no, because at that time, Lucas was an inexperienced director. He had the help of literally some of the greatest talent in the industry.
Yes.
Like, for example, Chewbacca. The costume was made by the guy who did the makeup for Planet of the Apes. You know,
that's incredible.
And
that's
like,
incredible.
like the cinematographer and whatnot. And while I do feel like we tend to overemphasize Marsha Lucas's contribution, he did save the edit. Like, as far as the editing is concerned, yes, she's very profound. But even she in the intervening years, by the way, if you watch her interviews, she is such a sweetheart. Like, she is not bitter about Lucas at all. Like, she's proud of her time at Star Wars. She defends Lucas. Like, I got a lot of respect for Marcia Lucas.
They stayed on relatively good terms. Now, his second wife, you could argue there's a bit of tension, but George and Martha still on good terms to this very day.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's like, you could almost kind of make a correlation of, like, the movies that Lucas had the least participation in, hand in, are some of the best ones. Because, like, the thing is, episode 5, he had the least amount of participation in, because George was mostly at ILM for most of that production. Like, whatever his name was, I forgot his name. Like, the guy who's whatever the director is, he's the one who handled directorial duties. But the thing is, and there was a separate director for Return of the Jedi. It's just the director was so inexperienced with special effects. George had to be on set every day anyway. So, like, George had more of a hand on Return of the Jedi, which is why it was kind of viewed as the black sheep of the series for so long. Like, old heads will realize Return of the Jedi was the one that people hated on for a longest time.
Yes. That part was just the fact that they changed this, about how they changed the storyline. When you're actually living that moment, when you come through, and I was a huge fan from the very beginning and saw them as they came out live each time. And we had expectations because we were reading, and I've talked about this before, we were reading the stories that Lucas had actually written, and when they would come out with these books that they would have in between the movies, we have books where Luke and Leia actually end up together because that brother-sister combo doesn't show up until later. And so
one moment. You guys talk. I gotta go grab something.
Yeah, go ahead. So we have this dynamic that people were expecting. If you're me and I'm 14 and I'm reading the Star Wars books right after A New Hope, and there was an entirely different storyline, and then suddenly it's right as it comes out, and they even said that, we're writing this in this way, and people were upset about that. Well, then it changes even more. We're going to get Wookiee Planet, and then we ended up with, the Ewoks, and it just felt like they sort of dumbed it down some. And I think that's why, as an original fan, or cute, but they weren't what I was expecting.
By the way, everyone, when they were talking about Luke and Leia like making out, she was referring to this.
That's right. Thank you. I read this book. I actually read it when it came out.
Okay, so backstory. This is the first expanded universe novel ever. This was written before Empire Strikes Back. Basically, George Lucas wasn't sure how Star Wars would do, so he wanted a cheap sequel. He wanted a sequel that could be made on the cheap, and this is what came out of it. Well, so yes, this is
relatively.
So this was made before Empire Strikes Back. Also, this book pretty much proves that Lucas did not have the Luke and Leia twist in mind the whole time. Like, he likes to claim that Luke and Leia were always twins, but this book disproves it.
Thank you for pulling that out, because people look at me like I'm a two-headed snake when I say it. No, it was not written in that way, and we had a lot of us that were reading as it came out. We read all this in-between stuff, and then you suddenly have canon change on you right in the middle of it. And that's why Wizard Brain, when she's talking about, writing the story, write the story the way it comes to you. Same thing for you, Nick. Anybody in your writing, write it as it comes to you. Try to write your arc and keep with it. The arc you get, don't change it because somebody goes, "Oh man, you killed this so and so." I have a great character in one of mine, and one of my fans loves Judge Leona. And I won't do a spoiler, but there's things that happen that they're like, "Oh, why did this happen? Why did this take place?" And I have to remind myself, no, you write it for a reason. It's written that way for a reason. You go ahead and write the story you have, because otherwise you end up with one of my greatest cautions to myself with a long running series is to not let that happen to me. And it's easy to say and hard to do. But when people talk about, "Oh, I'd love this thing," or "I want to try this," and you're like, "No, I've written the story and it has a certain end. It has a certain way it's got to go." You have to write the way you want it to write. Don't let it.
Because here's the thing about creating stories. Everyone has an idea of how your story can be better, and they probably all stink, because there are 5 million people and they have 5 million different ideas about how your story could go. One person wants to go this way, one wants to go that way. The best advice I can give to writers is write the story that you want. Now, if you have an editor, like if you have a singular editor who's making your story better, that's one thing. If you're working with an editor, or let's say you do it to people who you trust their opinion, then sure, take their advice. But be very selective about who you allow to give input on your story.
Well, I just came on with Stephen Black came on as my editor. I've just been talking with him. He's very excited about the series, and I'm moving into a point. I had some editors early, but I didn't have super like big on the developmental editing. I had my beta readers, and I had my other editors that would make suggestions. And Melanie Callahan is my publicist, who came in and helped me by reading the whole thing and saying, "Hey, let's make sure that this character said I want to know more about this." But usually it was pretty simple. But as I'm moving through into this is a Game of Thrones level story. It's huge, long, and I wanted to do what George R.R. Martin needs to get done, which is to get my this big complex storyline with all these different factions. So I'm like moving into this thing, and that's where the editor comes in, because he's literally reading it with fresh eyes. He's never read the backstory on it, and he's like, "Okay, it needs to be written this way." When I'm reading it as a new reader, what do I see? You know, I'm seeing this, and I have a question about this thing. So that was really valuable for me, for Stephen to come in and step into that part and do that, because I've still got Melanie working with me on the other things and everything. But it's just kind of scary to have somebody come that I haven't worked with before, and he's actually an editor at Quill and Crow, which is a horror house. And so he came in and he started looking at it. And I was like, the reason I went with him is because he validated what I already knew about my story. I already kind of knew what was, that part where you write something, hi. And so I didn't realize that was you, hi. And so when I had that part where he came in and he was like, "You need to do this. This is where it's sort of weak right here." And I was like, I knew it already. That was the part that was making me uncomfortable, that I was like, I know I need to do more with that section. And so he confirmed what I wanted. And he confirmed my love for the characters and the storyline. And it made me feel so much better, because you're right. When you trust your story and somebody comes in and goes, "Oh, you need to change this, you've got to change that." If it's no longer your story, why are you even writing it?
Yeah.
And that is a good point.
Like, for example, I pretty much have a very rough outline, so Lost Kingdom is going to be a trilogy, by the way. Okay. So I pretty much, there's a kind of an important event at the end of book 2 that I feel really strongly about, in fact. And one editor I was working at, he was like, "I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it." The problem is, if I change it, I have to literally redo my entire plans for book 3. And I'm like, because like literally I had structured book 3 to be a response to like the ending. I'm being very vague, of course, But yeah, but if you guys can we pause for a second? I have something I want to show you guys.
Yeah.
So I just received new artwork from my artist.
Woohoo!
So this is page 1 of 200 Samurai number 3.
Oh, I was so excited. I saw the prelims on this. I didn't see this part yet. Oh, I'm so excited.
Nice. But
Nice.
to go back to your previous points, Wizard Brain, you had something to say?
So we're doing a 200 Samurai section here real quick. I'm going to show you this art, and then it's time for a premiere. I got to premiere something. So, and then this is page 3. By the way, you're kind of seeing like the Blood and Steel edition going on here.
Oh, cool. I love the red.
Just to kind of compare, here's a previous version of, see how like a little bit flatter, he added more shading and whatnot. So okay. So while I pulled it up, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Basically, we're going to be premiering the teaser for 2100 Samurai issue 3 right now. We're going to be premiering this teaser because I told everyone about it. Yeah, so 200 Samurai is scheduled to come out May 5th. We're going to be premiering it on Comics League. And yeah, it's going to be really great, and I'm excited. I'm stalling for time right now because as I'm pulling it up, because right now it is right now the teaser is private. Unlisted. Let me
go back in and like.
No.
Yeah. Congrats. Yeah, Phoenix. So that is. I And it's a good feeling to see your story to come to life. And I'm the same way. When it comes up to my story, I just keep wanting to talk about it. That's all. When I used to do it with my friend, we would sit there and talk for hours about it. So I understand the geekiness of wanting to like, oh, look at this scene, and I want to build this, So it's really cool.
All right, are you guys ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Let's do it.
This is the teaser for 2100 Samurai issue 3.
Do it. Do
Yep.
Ooh, that is badass.
That was the premiere of the teaser.
I let that music carry the trailer. It was just
It is now
that
live.
music is pretty cool.
That teaser is now live on my channel. If you want to go and see it, I will put a link here in the chat right now. So, yep. I promised you guys I would get this.
Yay.
I am indie. What are you talking about, Jay Heat?
Actually, I was speaking in general. That actually brings me to my next point. But
Good job.
okay. First of all, comics is a completely different niche than what you see in TV and movies. Whatever
Right.
scraps the big two give you, I assure you, it is not worth it. Just at least with indie, you are able to do your own thing, cater your own audience, build yourself back up.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really passionate about comics, don't take the easy path. It's long term, and her connection gave out. But
it happens.
okay, you take the longest path, and you're able to get more experience. You're able to get more feedback. You're able to build yourself back up. Because if you take the scraps the big two give you, let's just say, and I mean this the most respectful way possible, you end up with a big head, and you don't really see the writing on the wall. Especially if you're a hack bad mouthing on Twitter. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, like you see this all the time. Like honestly, you see this a lot in the indie space. Is you see people who are more concerned about starting drama, more concerned about talking crap. I just have a good one, Nix. Thank you for stopping by. And honestly, I'm just sick and tired of it. I just want to make my comics and talk with good people. So I will mute. I will block. I will mute. I will block. I don't care. Like I had someone who basically I didn't like how they talked. So I blocked them, and they got so butthurt about it. They like whenever I would be on a stream that they frequent, they go on the stream and harass me. You know, I tried to ignore it. One time I got let it get the better of me, and blah blah blah. Anyone who knows my lore kind of remembers that incident. And I've since kind of thought about it because like the stream guy was like, why don't you apologize to him? Why don't you make up to him? Like literally he's harassing me right now. Like what? Well, like literally he's doing exactly the reason I blocked him. And the guy, this person was like defending him.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah, I'm not naming names because I'm not trying to continue this drama. I'm just talking about it. So I'm not naming names, But
No,
anyone who knows my
understandable.
lore,
Okay.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
I gotta say this. At least you can meet a deadline consistently.
But, well, here's the thing: the slot has been defeated because he's left Twitter. So
Oh wow.
All right. I
I don't know. Yeah, because all of them are freaking out because wait, I have to pay $8 a month to be valid.
Now, I will play devil's advocate. Comic writers don't make a whole lot of money. Only legacy writers and those are already established get top dollar.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that because,
Okay.
I guarantee you, out of all four of you guys, I make the least amount of money, and I pay for Twitter. So
I mean, it depends on what kind of job you have behind the scenes. I mean, I don't think
I mean,
any of us are.
being a male gigolo, it's kind of rough work. So
Yeah.
it
And
comes
we're
and it
getting
goes.
demonetized. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, because we have definitely been any normal average person trying to make a comic, it's gonna be a lot of money, especially if you're not the one that's drawing, so you have to keep paying a person to draw it.
That is true.
Because
That's true.
Yeah, as
I
a
do
person who
want my
makes
book.
comics, yes.
Yeah, I do want my book to be a comic or a manga, but the problem is I can't draw with a damn.
Oh,
So,
I'm-
yeah, trust me. I literally like someone's like, "Oh, you could do a quick doodle, and I'm like, "Okay." And then I did one, and then I just submit a stick figure.
Yeah, like
So,
I had
like-
I had one person say like, "Why don't you do stick figures?" Like, are you are you serious? Like I'm so, like not many people are going to be interested in a stick figure comic. Like maybe it's a web comic, but because like here's the thing: we in the indie space, while it's wide open, can be kind of competitive,
It
and
can.
art
can.
is actually very important.
Yes.
As much
It is.
and it's something that I struggle with to make sure that like my art is at least somewhat decent, but yeah, there's tons of people who blow my comics out of the water art wise. Writing wise, I think I'm hanging with the best of them, but that's the ego talking right there.
No, yeah. Story is more important than art, but art is also like it needs to be at least average to get most people interested because when you're doing Indiegogo and doing a trailer, the first thing you're gonna see is the art.
Yeah,
That is
this is how I've always put it. All right, so good art draws you in. Good writing keeps you there because
That's true.
Art alone cannot save a bad story. That
art
is
with the art
true.
art on its own is basically just a series of pictures. And I don't care if you're like the best artist, or, like I don't care if you're the best storytelling artist. Like wordless comics are a novelty at best, and it is not like it. Maybe it is not something that everyone could do. Maybe you could have a comic that releases regularly that maybe but like those are outliers. You need a good story. You need good characters.
You need a hook.
There.
yes.
You need a hook.
Yeah, that's what I'm positive my characters are good. Unfortunately I don't have an editor or like I do World Chaos Comics. She has been giving me some feedback on my book and she loves it so far, but she's also like the nicest person on the earth.
Now,
So
I have a brief example from the big two, and this is probably the cleanest one because the other just gives me a headache.
Oh,
The
really?
one I'm going to reference is has anyone here has seen Red X Teen Titans the animated series from 03? Who's seen it?
Anyone who hasn't is getting booted right now.
I have seen it. Yes, thank you.
Okay, your position is safe then.
Okay. Now sorry, Brain Wizard Brain, go ahead.
nothing. You can go on.
Okay, thank you.
Trust me, I know why she's being silent. I'm just humoring her.
Okay. But okay. There was a storyline called Teen Titans Academy. Now,
Hell, brother.
Hey John, how are you doing?
How are you?
Now, in the storyline was supposed to be the canonization or canon of Red X in main continuity. That is the hook. That is the appeal. But it completely goes off the rails when you have these when you focus. Okay, they were trying to copy Marvel's Strange Academy, where it's a completely melodramatic teen book about high school adventure. You can have that. DC has actually done this before with Gotham Academy a couple years back. But Jim Sheridan was actually trying to balance pretty much two generations. You have the Red X hook, which would appeal to someone our age range or beyond, and essentially he was trying to tell a YA story in a TV show structure, and it just didn't work. It kind of collapsed in on itself. I don't even think it lasted like 5 issues.
Yeah.
Now there was a crossover in the middle with Suicide Squad, and that gave it some momentum. But that's because no one knew what the heck was going on. It just completely fell off the rails.
See, the thing is,
What's Suicide Squad? We're talking about, the first one or the second one?
Infinite Frontier, the second one, the most recent one.
Oh,
here's a problem I have. Like, we've seen Batman be reinvented so many different ways. Like, I'm sorry, like reinventing all the Batman characters as high school or college. I think that, like, that in itself sounds like a cool idea. Like, imagine like You know, Poison Ivy as a tree hugging hippie. You know, that toxic girl that like everyone wants to be with, but like no, like you know, kind of thing. It's like you can you can easily apply a lot of these characters to your standard high school tropes and make it actually sound good. The problem is these writers, they suck so much. They like okay. Here's the thing.
Here's my counterpoint. Gotham High.
No. What I'm saying is, the point I'm trying to make is it can be done. It's just these writers don't have the ability to actually make it work.
Yeah, or they estimate themselves. Like if I was asked to do like a Gotham High or a super teen thing, I would deny it because I would have no idea what to do or how to make that good.
I think one of the problems they have to actually is that when you come up with Teen Titans in the first place, you've already kind of got that concept. You've got them all living together. They're all teens. They're all working together. You've got a big enough group. You've already got that interaction that you would have for a high school drama. You also have the original backstory that you've got with Dick Grayson. All these guys out there and they're doing what they do, and you're already interacting that way. There's already a great dialogue.
This kind of ties into why I like DC better than Marvel. Marvel is very top heavy with his characters. You basically have your top tier characters. X-Men is a little bit different. X-Men but
kind of
DC,
stuck in the middle.
No. What I'm saying is DC has basically your top tier, mid tier, low tier, and then they gotta have 4 different tiers. Like you have your top tier, which is like your Batmans, Supermans. Your second tier, which is like your Nightwings, your Batgirls. You know, your third tier, which is like your Robins, and then you have your fourth tier, which is like your spoilers. You know, but the thing is, a lot of every tier hits a different demographic or age group. Now, I tend to like the second tier characters, the Huntresses, the Batgirls, you know. But like someone who's younger, they might like the young adventures of Robin and Cassandra Cain, and that's kind of what's great about DC. Oh, Bubba, just yes, perfect visualization. Yes. Where you can hit those different demographics, and you don't have to age down the characters. Marvel kind of has it. Like Miles Morales should be the Robin
he is currently.
They should be treating Miles Morales like Damian Wayne. Honestly, he's what I mean by that is Damian is an important character, but he's still a younger character. He's still, he does his own thing, but he's not an important character. Okay. You know, so I feel like they should treat Damian Wayne more like the younger Spider-Man he actually is. Give him his own name, give him his own thing. He can interact with Peter as much as he wants. You know, Peter can swing in anytime he wants to help, but he's that's why it's kind of like what they did with the games. You know, with Spider-Man PS4, you had Miles get his thing, and then Miles kind of helped him out, but then he gave him his own game. And Peter was there. They kind of had a story reason why he was out of the city. But they gave him his time to shine, and it's yes, that's great.
The Squire, not the Knight, basically.
Yeah.
And to get back to that, Damian Wayne can carry a book. Joshua Williamson's 2021 run proves that. But you also have brand confusion with Tim Drake, because what happened with Damian, now when Damian came into the picture, I'm just going to say it, Tim was snubbed and just about every 90s kid was pissed off. Let's just call it for what it is. And Tim has been stuck in Damian's shadow to this day. Bendis, as much as he's fallen off, at least tried to do something about it in his Young Justice book.
Yeah.
And we got the Drake. I'm not saying he did a good job.
They need to Nightwing Tim Drake so badly.
Please.
Aren't they trying to do that with giving him the Nighthawk identity, which I think
Red Robin worked best.
Actually,
it's a hand-me-down, but it works.
No, he needs to step away from the Robin identity. Maybe giving him a Night name, that might be better because instead of tying him with Robin, you're tying him with Nightwing. Instead of Nightwing, he's Nighthawk, where it's similar to Nightwing, but it's still different enough to where it's I'd rather Tim be associated with Nightwing than he is with Robin, because at least when associated with Nightwing, he can still be he's an independent character, but he's inspired by Dick. I really feel they need to go in that direction.
That's a fair point, but that Nightwing, that Red Robin 09 run was just
I
was
mean,
good.
how many times do I talk about it? And like Ra's al Ghul calling Tim detective. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, 100%.
Or at the very least, have Tim on Batman Incorporated. I think that would mesh pretty well.
But I think first and foremost, I think Tim and Miles have a similar problem: identity crisis. They need their own identity that is theirs.
Here's where you actually see that when we talk about those first and second tier, third tier, when DC, y'all weren't at that point where you watched as they were trying to grow their top tier. Your top tier almost always, when we go to DC, we say it's Batman and Superman. That's it. Those guys. Marvel top tier is Spider-Man. That's who you're going to go to almost always. But when you have the Silver Age of comics, you actually had Kirby come in, and he is trying to create a top tier group of people. And so often, unfortunately, the ones who actually stick with us actually from Kirby are the villains. His villains are the ones that become top tier. His hero to fade somewhat, and I'm saying that as I'm a huge Kirby fan. I'm like a big on Kirby, and his worlds are so involved. But he goes
Fourth world.
Yeah, he goes back and forth between Marvel and DC, and as a result, you see them sort of kick those characters down a notch just because, oh, it's Kirby, he's left, we're going to go put this down in a different slot, and so they don't get developed as much as they could have.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't see the fact is that really what we're trying to do is we're just rehashing the same stories over and over again when we go to Superman and to especially to Batman, because he's such a compelling character. But we write about this. We keep on trying to fit them into, oh, we're going to make it fresh. We're going to make it new. We're going to explore this. And the Robins actually have the ability to do that because they're a changing character. We can bring in different, but we're still doing the same role. Yeah, I think that if they were going to do it, they would do it through like you're saying, Batman Incorporated. Let them come in as their own guy and their own department. They don't have to be, we're all Nightwing, we're all Robin. Now you've come in through the apprenticeship program.
We are Flash.
Department. And,
sorry, Jay Heat knows what I'm referencing.
Yeah. So I think that it really comes down to the fact it's just that we've done the characters so much and we start to see them get slotted, where it's like they're going to fit here and we're going to make it fit into that idea. And then you have now this new culture coming in and saying, oh, we're going to change everything. They end up destroying the character instead. So you lose the whole thing. We don't have this group of great characters like we should that are the supporting characters. And I think that's why you like those second tier characters so much, because honestly, a lot of them haven't been messed with as much as our top tier lines.
Yeah. And it's like,
Nick, I hate to cut you off. But I feel like Snow makes a very good point. And I feel like that's how, at least with Dan DiDio's side of things, how 5G was implemented. It was a reproach to actually build up the new generation, break the slot system, and just restructure everything. I just feel like instead of just chasing headlines and making it, okay, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid. All new, all different model was a poor model to go with. That crashed and burned within the span of 3 years. The only reason they chose that model specifically was so they could chase headlines and make a publicity stunt out of it. That was it. And I just feel like the best way to do something like that is either create a scenario where you have basically what happened with the Justice Society. They either disband or they age out of their prime and they play more of a supporting / mentor role. And then you prop them, and then you prop a new set of characters like Connor Kent taking Superman, which he should have. Maybe Dick Grayson as Batman if you really want to go back to Grant Morrison's run, but Tim Drake is a good stand-in. One of the Green Lanterns. Basically, what I'm saying is have a new generation step up as the old Vanguard is easing into not so much retirement, but they're not what they used to be. Basically, they're not what they used to be. And I feel like an organic structure that would have gone a lot better than just Dan DiDio's just copying Marvel again. And then we get this huge implosion. AT&T wasn't having it. A power vacuum ensues behind the scenes with creatives and executives alike. And it was a big mess for the past 2 years. I just feel like organic storytelling is king. That's just
where we're going to go with this thing. Because actually what we're talking about when we look at Nick and you, Jay Heat, and you, Wizard Brain, and we look at we're talking about that is where the indie has to step up. Because these houses, the big two, are not going to let go of those IPs, even though they're destroying them, literally destroying them from within.
Yeah.
They will coming back to that well. I've made this analogy before that it's like a bad stripper ex-girlfriend. She keeps coming back around. She keeps wanting your money, but she's still going to dump you as soon as you turn on to say.
And you know it, but you let her in the door anyway.
And so instead, what we need to do is time for a new relationship because they're not going to let us write those stories about the IPs we love. We're going to create our own. And one of the ways we have to do that is by first of all is by looking back and saying, what do I want to avoid? We talked about Lucas and we talked about DC and Marvel and how we sort of want to avoid that to bring it back to that organic storytelling. These are the human storytelling things that we need to do. And when I listen to Wizard talk and she's talking about her characters that she loves so much, and you've had these in yourself all these years, you're trying to give birth to this actual creation. We have a group of executives or a group of executives with an AI and a committee sitting around at Marvel or DC, and they're not listening to some creator, young creator that says, I have this great idea. They're going, how can we make this thing happen? And we're going to bring in a whole boardroom full of people, and we're going to slip in this agenda and that agenda. And while we're at it, we need to make X amount of dollars. And so we want to make sure we sell exactly this many, but we don't like our fans. So how are we going to do this? It's time for us to just go ahead and say, if we want these stories, we're going to have to write them ourselves. And it's really hard to break free from that template that they've given us. But if you have a great Dick Grayson story in your head, how can you write it, Jay Heat, to a point to where it's not
perfect example. Screecher is a perfect example of that. Because, like, I'm a huge Batman fan, and I wanted to tell my own kind of style Batman stories. And I currently...
I have a confession to make. I'm a comic noob. I'm in the I'm in the independent comics genre just because I support people's independent freedom of expression, where if they don't like a certain thing, they should be allowed to make their different stories and not be hounded for it. So that's why I'm in the indie comics thing. And I've read many indie comics now recently. And now I'm just like, well, I was like asking some older one, like some people who know their stuff, like, hey, what's some good, what it used to be like, and what's some good Marvel or DC comics I used to, and I got some on my Kindle, and I really like the Hulk. So
Mark Waid, George Perez, Viva.
Mark Waid.
Mark Waid has fallen off, but you got to admit his old stuff was solid, was peak, and being new is not a crime. And to go back to Bubba's, God, I can't talk. Bubba's comment. Okay, I'm probably going to get some heat for this, but some would say woke. Okay, Snow would probably be able to relate to this more than I would. But every generation has its rebellious phase in terms of trying to stir controversy, stir the pot, get attention, something like that. The Boomers had I want to say Generation X had the hippies. 70s had disco. 80s was kind of all over the place, but with heavy metal.
We're not going to take
it.
I remember those. I remember the days where they used to say metal was basically devil's music. I remember that. Yeah.
90s was goth. 2000s was scene.
And 2010s is basically where we are now.
Like the 2000s was scene and emo. Well,
I'm not going to mention
Bubba,
him, but I know exactly who's responsible for kicking it off.
Thanks for clearing that up, Bubba.
Grunge, as much as I love it, and Nirvana's my favorite band, grunge was really just kind of basically the first half of the 90s. Because if you look at the first half of the 90s and the second half of the 90s are almost two different decades, almost. Like the aesthetics are so wildly different. And the thing is, the late 90s, the mid to late 90s didn't really die out till like 2003, 2004.
That is true.
I call it the Matrix aesthetic.
But so you have to ask yourself, when you see all those different rebellions and you look at them, they're actually from the bottom up. Now, this is not always the case with the Boomers, because the Boomers were right before me, and they had a very much a corporate structure. Oh, we have this hit. You're going to wear all the same clothes, and you're going to dance to all the same music. And it was very inorganic. But as you start to move into the indie scenes, and especially when you start moving towards punk, as you go into that scene and you started to see this indie rebellion take place in the music industry, it was not on the top. It did not come from the top of the food chain or the top of the corporate chain. Instead, a punk was coming from the bottom up, and it finally got recognized, and some people did it. But even now, you don't see this, we're doing corporate punk. It still looks inauthentic.
Oh no, punk is corporatized. Like, have you seen the punk where it's like, it's not punk to be transphobic, like that,
Yeah, that one made me laugh.
But that's what I'm saying. Longer from the bottom up. It's not, the corporations usually will throw their hands up and go, holy cow, what are you doing, when it's actual true rebellion. This is coming from the top down. This is coming from the richest people on earth saying, you're going to think this and we're going to pretend like it's an organic movement. And that's the reason why it feels so wrong. It doesn't be, you don't have a brand new artist that's coming out with a brand new way of looking at things, or a new, these are people that are chosen to go do this. Some of them have never even read the comics or even looked at it. They don't even like the content. They don't like the IPs.
Yeah, it's like every time you see,
Let her talk.
like,
Let her talk. Let her
Okay,
cook.
okay.
She has something to say.
Because you're probably gonna kill me, but literally, you're looking at a series of people who are chosen because they have an agenda. They want to, not because they love the IP, not because they love the property. They don't love anything about it. They are chosen by a corporation to sell a corporate view, and that's what's ruining the stories. It's not about rebellion at all. They'll tell you it's rebellion. Ooh, it's rebellious to do this thing. They're still making money hand over fist every time they tell you it's rebellion, and they tell you to go do this wonderful thing. They're making money out the wazoo. This is not rebellion. That's actually fascism, when you're being told by a top tier person that you have to do it this way, or you're not cool enough, or you won't be allowed to speak. That's you have to be able to say that it's organic, and we're not.
Girl is on fire.
Yeah,
Snow, I couldn't have said it better myself. I couldn't.
Hold up, let her cook. Let her cook.
You all are the organic movement. J-Heat, you. Wizard Brain, Nick, you guys are the organic movement. You are the rebellion. You're literally at the bottom going, I'm scrabbling my way out. I will fight for this. I will pay my own money. And you see the fat cats at the top, and they fear you. That's why they don't want you doing this. That is the reason you have to do this. You are the new rebellion.
I don't know about me, but I agree with everybody else.
Snow?
It's one of the reasons I love that. The thing about the Iron Age is just because it's about forging and fighting.
Snow, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to clip this and post it on Shorts. That was one for the ages.
Yeah, that was a good speech, man. That was I agree.
I'm taking note of the
everything
time thing right there. That was. Oh.
Yeah, we got these. Yeah, that was 100% correct. We got these rich Oga people or organizations that are pretending like they care or pushing for something, but they're actually not. They're just trying to open our wallets and just trying to get rich at the end of the day. So
now grifting is a thing, but I feel like some people, they're average. They wouldn't be able to get in unless the big two gave them a handout. And take who's a good example? Not Vida Ayala.
Oh no. Well, I just kind of want to talk about Bubba's comment right here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he did make a good comment.
Perfect example, Eric July. This guy spent years building up his YouTube presence, and he renounced the comic book, and it made $3.5 million. And the one thing that the elite can't stand is a successful black man. They can't stand a black man actually doing something for himself and being successful.
Well, this is what J-Heat.
No, it's like they're so hypocritical because they tell people they don't agree with that's like, oh, you should leave and do your own thing. So the people that they go off and make their own thing and still get hounded and canceled for it. So it's hypocritical. Like we're in our own spaces doing our own thing, and they still won't leave us alone. It's like.
I feel like it's a mix of both. Now, Snow did make a beautiful point about being commercialized, but why it keeps being invigorated, why it keeps being retweeted and hashtagged and all this other stuff is because the younger generation actually buy it. They actually consume the words that is pouring into their ears. They don't know
on
better.
Twitter maybe, but like it doesn't translate into comic sales. There's another Snow.
Yeah,
everything you said is correct, but there is another aspect to this. There's kind of another wing of it. And I got this when I was talking to what was his name? J-Heat, the comic book guy, Nightwing, his name.
I know who you're talking about. What was his name?
Chuck Dixon. I was talking to Chuck.
Yes.
I'm name dropping here. And what he told me was it used to be comic books was the destination. You got in the industry to write for Marvel or DC or just write comics in general. Yeah. Nowadays, comics is a transitionary. Like you write for Marvel, you stay there for a few years, then you move on to write for Vogue, Salon, or whatever. Or you write for Hollywood. It's not the destination. It's another stop on the
A
tour.
stepping stone, basically.
So you have these people who come into Marvel and DC, and they already know they're not going to be there forever. You know, like they just want to make their mark, write something that'll get them noticed, and leave. They don't care about continuity. They don't care about writing anything that, you know, like if they break comics in a million pieces, they don't care. They got their job at Universal, you know. So and I think that is really hurting
that's
comics.
why Elseworlds exists. There's out of continuity story. Fan expectation is relatively low. You could do whatever using the bigger IPs. So if you have someone who's just going to use it as a stepping stone, Elseworlds would be a good box to play in.
Oh
for better
yeah,
for
man.
you.
I'm like I love Elseworlds, and like I'm torn, like because we know the Snyder movie was happening for a long time, and when I finally saw that trailer for that the announcement for when they were going to release select theaters for the Zack Snyder thing, I'm like, I got my hopes rised up again, because like there's got to be a reason for that. You know, you had to get permission from Warner Brothers.
Jared is cheering right now.
Yeah, he's crying tears of joy.
Yeah, you had to get permission from Warner Brothers, so there must be testing. Like, okay, yeah, these people claim that they love Zack Snyder, so let's actually test it out and see how much money it actually makes. So they're, releasing it in select locations and see how many tickets. And before I could even have a chance, all the tickets were sold out. So yeah, I was like, yeah, gone.
Well, here's your, and I'm not going to get past this. Them getting rid of Henry Cavill for no reason.
Oh yeah, the biggest flop ever.
Let her talk. Let her talk.
Let her cook. Let her cook.
They sealed it for me. I'm not going back to them. I'm not doing it. They took characters that we love. They actually, and you're right, they use it as a transition because they're always moving towards the movies. Because what we see in younger people consuming is not through the comic, it's through the movie. But even so, younger people aren't going to the movies the way they were before. Where is this money coming from, and how are they being funded? If you're not buying comics and you're not buying comics, you're not buying. How are they getting it? They get it through one big movie a year. They put all the money into it. They sell it any way they can, and they convince their shareholders that this was a huge win, even when it wasn't. But here's the thing: I can't get over it. I'm sitting here listening to Jay Heat. This man's got a brain. He ought to be running his own comic house. I mean, literally, this should be the guy that they should be coming to going, man, you've got these great ideas. You know the canon. You know everything. You know all of these stories. You're like a human encyclopedia, Jay Heat. Literally, to be able to listen to you talk about this, and you've got all the storylines and everything in there. Why aren't they talking to you? Why aren't they talking to Nick? Why aren't they talking to Wizard Brain? The reason why, because they don't care. They've already got it figured out, and they're already getting their money from somewhere else. They're not getting it from you guys. They don't care about the fans anymore. They don't care if I don't go. They don't care if you don't go. They only care that they can show they sold enough tickets. If they have to sell them through Fandango or whatever the heck they're using now and saying that they've made a sale, even if it was to their own corporation, which is what happens a lot of time. When we see them say, oh, I sold this many books, they're actually counting the sales to the bookstore. Or they say, we sold this many tickets. They've actually sold that many tickets to a block of, that actually is a group of investors that will come in and buy the tickets to show that it was a big hit. They don't care.
Captain Marvel, anyone?
Out there.
Yeah, suckers.
Oh,
God. If I could talk to DC and Marvel right now, this is what I would say to them.
I'm doing what you won't. I'm taking them out.
Point. That's a fair point.
The only thing that with DC that's succeeding right now that no one can deny is the Batman and the Joker. Like, that's literally making. I can't lie and not lie. I'm very excited for Joker 2. I might wait. I'll probably wait until it's on streaming or something. But yeah, you can't that'd be hard to pass up watching.
But Batman and Spider-Man are. I hate to cut you off, Wizard Brain, but Spider-Man and Batman are very similar to where they're pretty much the standard. They're the most iconic. They're the brands that are too big to fail, or if they do decline, there's going to be rampant consequence. Yes. Now, a lot of it now with Tom King specifically, his run that was editorial because they were trying to set up 5G, and Tom King had two choices: either kill off Alfred, or the technical term is Fridge, but kill off Selena Kyle. So I feel like, in that instant, Tom King just made the best out of a bad situation. But you essentially had, the whole Batman and Catwoman, the call back to the Silver Age. You had an entire run dedicated to that payoff. And right when you get to issue 50, Selena backs out and leaves him at the altar. And then even in the Fallout transition to City of Bane, You had a book that was nearly 100,000 a month in sales, deviates to almost 30,000, just because you were trying to copy All New, All Different, an initiative no one was going to like. It wasn't going to sell. It was an IP. I haven't seen a creative blunder this bad since One More Day.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot of bad comics.
Or the movies that are completely different than comics in general. I do a 360 because when I first heard about like what was it, like She-Hulk, or like I've seen a few comics and I was genuinely interested. Then I heard about the show. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll give this a chance. And then I wait for the review. I know, no, I wait for the reviews, and turns out it was all shit.
Oh.
I was smart enough to wait. I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait until some reviews, and then obviously it was a shit show. So I'm glad I didn't watch.
We're seeing that bleed into where the comics had been, where they would run off this terrible storyline that's completely outside of canon. They would go back to canon for the Marvel movies and the DC movies. They would do it every time. What we're seeing is the comics now. But instead of it going, oh, the canon is great, the fans love these people, let's keep writing that. We don't have to write that story, but we can continue with canon. You can make new characters that still fit in that world, but they didn't want to do that. They want to destroy those IPs. They want to take it out, rip it out, replace it with something that they have created that is an inorganic structure that is designed to instruct an agenda, not to actually entertain people who love to work. And so when you have that happen, they aren't going in and seeking out these great new storylines. They're not seeking out all that stuff. And I find that now we see the comics are actually bleeding into the movies now. That's what happens with She-Hulk. Instead of it pushing down and going, hey, they love these great stories, they're saying, no matter what, we're going to show them. They're going to watch this garbage content, and we're going to shame them into saying they like it, or they're going to be silent. And we have to fight back against that. You cannot let them lure you in over and over again. If they have hurt you once, you giving them money on that one great hit. And this is the problem with it. I love some of the Snyderverse stuff and everything like that. But when they treated Henry Cavill the way they did, I said, that's it. That's the end. Why? Why are they suddenly deciding they're going to do this? Why are they doing these things to the movie part that's making them the money? They are sending a clear signal that the fandom does not matter. If you get to a point where you decide that the people you are writing for no longer matter, then you can go write for yourself, and that is cool. Go
Shame these nuts.
I blame The Rock, like 100%. It was like,
okay. Now, I gotta say,
I know.
Yeah, Jay, you had the floor.
Okay, thank you. What Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, did, he did get us at least a verbal agreement for Henry Cavill to come back as Superman. Let's give the man his props. He at least held the fort and got the ball rolling. But he tried to completely dominate the structure. He tried to hog the DCEU for itself to the point where it was a final gamble. They would at least, allegedly, honor the deal in exchange that Black Adam did decent.
Yeah.
But there was so much wrong with that movie. One, Black Adam's contract, he can't lose a fight.
Yeah, that's dumb. Like,
The Rock is not a babyface. He has always been a heel. Even during his wrestling days, he was a heel, a badass heel, but a heel nonetheless.
Rock is a wrestler, dude. Thank you.
Rock does not work as a babyface. He just doesn't. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. I know that's a blow to his ego, but it just doesn't work. And then you had product placement, the kid, and I'm just like, are y'all even trying at this point? I haven't seen product placement.
The family really dragged that movie down. Like, I believe, like, if you took the whole family out, the movie would have approved maybe like, I don't know, like maybe like 20%, but would have flopped. But still, like, why? Stop giving top male superheroes babysitting jobs. Like, stop. Like, they don't need to look after a kid and stop.
But don't you know? A male lead taking after a kid, that subject matter is so hot right now, and Pedro Pascal is in 2 of them.
I know.
That's more trend
in a bad way. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
He's a babysitter.
But I will, to cover John's topic. Now, the Black Adam movie was supposed to be in 2007. It kept being buried in delays and delays. So Black Adam is really a product of its initial production. It's a product of its time type situation. If it came out like Justice League Mortals or when it was supposed to, it probably would have done as much as Iron Man 1 in 08, if not slightly less. So Black Adam is definitely a product of its time. Because you have Black Adam, you have the Justice Society, you have this demonic big bad, and then you have post-credit tease at the end. There was really not that much to fix. Remove product placement of the kid, have Black Adam and Superman team up against the demon, and make that the makeshift Justice Society, or have the Justice Society play a supporting role. Mm-hmm. There really wasn't that much to change. The Rock just had to get smacked around a bit. But
my problem is Black Adam got overshadowed in his own movie by the Justice Society. Like, the Justice Society was so much more interesting as characters than The Rock. Like, I'm sorry. I came to that movie for Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate.
Perfect casting. I will not deny that.
And he played it beautifully. Cyclone, great character. Discount Giant Man was great.
Adam Smasher, but go on.
Yeah, in fact, like they turn like, and Hawkman is another example of, you can race swap a character, but as long as it works, nobody cares. Like, I don't care. Like, sure, like had the initial reaction, like, oh, they made Hawkman black, but like, you watch the movie, like, it works. Like the character, like the actor does a great job, and he's perfect for the role. So I don't care. When we get back, you and I are having words.
Yeah, I remember it does happen. Like, I can't remember the other character where they race swapped, but it was so successful
Michael Clark Duncan as a Kingpin.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you might be thinking of Nick Fury.
That was actually in the Ultimate Comics, and that worked tremendously. That was one of the best parts of the Ultimate Comics, though they did have to pay extra for Fury's likeness.
Well, I'm not sure if this is true, but the legend goes that I guess they had him, like, use Samuel Jackson's likeness for Nick Fury in the comics. I guess he made a deal where it's like, pay me some money, and if you ever do a movie, I get to play him. That's the legend. I don't know if that's actually true.
But it did end up happening. So the legend was fulfilled.
That's correct. Prophecy came true.
Yeah, I came in for the Rock movie for the hopes of Henry Cavill to continue Zack Snyder, but stayed for the team, and not like literally that whole movie. If you could just remove the Rock and the family, that movie would have done great.
Although a Justice Society movie would. Oh, I'm sorry, Snow. Go ahead.
Or just written him into the storyline, that storyline in particular, and let it be sort of, the family in the background. In other words, actually, the society itself is carrying this. And if they introduced Black Adam through that, I think it would have been more successful than to do the branch out where you have the different ones, including Black Adam. But I think that maybe it should have started with the ensemble instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel, that's a good point. And Black Adam, okay, first of all, he's a Shazam villain. Let's just call it for what it is. Mm-hmm. Second, Black Adam, okay, I always remember the storyline, Justice Society World War III, where the family, the wife and the mother and kid, the mother gets married to Black Adam, they have some relationship problems, blah, 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 but then are tragically killed during a terrorist attack on Kahndaq. Black Adam loses it during this storyline. No one is safe. And he technically wins because the world doesn't want to risk going to war, especially when the ruler of that nation is a superpowered meta mad at the world. This is like Injustice Superman levels of bad. If you actually read this story, it is not pretty. It is not pretty.
I'm going to check into that.
Justice Society World War III, I promise you'll have the time of your life. But yeah, that would have made a perfect adaptation. You already have a roster of the Justice Society. You already have a Black Adam actually having a pseudo family or reconnecting with the modern world. Even if it was just a quick montage, say Black Adam was released a couple years prior. He meets with the archaeologist. He's technically a father figure to her son. They're tragically killed by Intergang, and Black Adam goes off the deep end, goes on a mini rampage. And you already have the Justice Society already intervening, trying to appease political interest. That's the perfect setup. And then Superman can come in as extra muscle.
Right.
Now tell me what I just
they don't want to do that. They just want filler family. They don't want interesting family.
That's right.
Get hype for product, consume product, then get excited for next product.
Yeah, and
Basically.
I love Phoenix's rant on The Rock. I was like, yes, slay, King.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh, you saw that.
I
Oh.
replayed that a few times. I was shaking my head. I was like, yeah.
It just kind of came out of me.
You're
Yeah,
not
I
gonna
know.
live that down, buddy.
I
You're
was
not gonna live
picturing
that
Mortal Kombat, and you're doing like a a finisher move.
Phoenix wins.
down.
Fatality.
Finish him. But okay. What's another wasted opportunity? We already talked about the Snyderverse.
Oh yeah, I know we talked about. Sorry,
Oh.
let me make this real quick. I know we talked about stories, but I also think if you make a main character's death pointless, it's also a good reason to be mad.
Rise of Skywalker. Somehow
Yeah.
Palpatine returned.
Yeah. All
Better
right.
talk.
I'll just bring up that point. All right. Continue on.
No, Wizard Cook. We're gonna let you cook.
Please.
All right. Do you guys remember? I know how many of you guys are book readers. Do you guys remember a book called Circus Du Freak?
Yes.
No.
And I love that series. And I read the last book, and it pissed me the fuck off. I remember reading it, the last book, and then literally throwing it against the wall. Oh
You're
man.
gonna have that reaction.
Oh yeah, I know mine was an overreaction because I really liked that character, and I was like, why? Like it makes no sense.
No,
This comes literally comes out of nowhere.
Snow, you want to handle this one?
Yeah, no, and this actually happens also with Michael Moorcock's Elric series. A lot of people have that same reaction. No spoilers. A lot of people have the same reaction because you're building up and you're thinking there's a redemption somewhere. Depending on your readers. Now, some people they take that and they if they've been through something similar, then they're like, wow, this is a great ride, but that really kills me at the end, but they never forget it. Is that a win?
Right.
Readers never forget it, and they're like, holy cow, that was terrible. But with the Michael Moorcock group, where you're literally waiting for that redemptive thing to happen to save this character from a fate. And what happens if it doesn't happen? What happens if they become absorbed in a different way? And it challenges, why did you go through all this? And some people that feels like that reflects their life. And that's great. But I'm a superversive kind of person. I like to be uplifted. I have to really believe there's a reason why I'm still going to be alive next year. I have to feel like there's a reason that I'm going to do this. And so I look for the superversive. So I think it's once that type of story gets out there, the readers who like that are going to keep it. But yes, if you're one of like us, like me and Wizard, I wanted to see these characters succeed. It gets really hard when that happens, where the character it's pointless. We already have enough meaningless stuff happen in our own lives. You get to a place in your life where you're like, I want something to work out for somebody somewhere. It's like,
Please.
This was always the biggest
I must
distinction
ask
between
for
the big two.
yeah, Blaze for his how he reacted. I know mine. I was a younger kid, so I was easily more like I was like more like really easily more upset. And I was just like, because I read every book and I read each book twice, and then when I finally got to the last one, I literally threw the book. I was just like, why?
Why? Oh, why?
So I wanted to ask Blaze how he felt about the last book of Circus Du Freak.
What I felt about the last book, first of all, you're not always going to get a redemption arc. Sometimes
I
there's
know.
something called a tragic character where that is their fate, that's their circumstance, and that's just the lot they're made. And younger audiences, depending on their age range, aren't ready to accept something like that. They're more naive. They're more inspired, is what I want to say. To what? But
I
that's
was
the
pretty
reality.
young, yeah.
That's the reality of the situation. Now, an older audience or someone who's went through like more dark experiences, they'll be able to gravitate or relate to that a lot better because that's just the hand they're dealt. They made the best out of their situation, and that's just where they ended up. So you're trying to balance between not so much breaking away from fairy tales and happily ever after, but trying to balance realism versus escapism. And the big two does this especially. DC used to be what we aspired to be, the escapism, the morality, whereas Marvel was more grounded. Like, despite what you're dealt, despite what you've been through, you can overcome it and you can become a better person.
Mm-hmm.
So, And now with the movies, first of all, okay, quick tangent. All New, All Different Marvel was literally to at least explain away or transition the fact that there was a good chance Rodney Downey Jr. and Chris Evans would get too big, and they would have to recast if they wanted to keep the franchise going. That's the main reason All New, All Different was even a thing. Let's just call it for what it is.
Yeah.
But even in spite of that, sometimes things change, and you just have to accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm absolutely right on this. I think that the difference is that there's a point where tragedy still somehow transcends, where it pulls the person out. There's still something triumphant in the downfall. The difference between Alamo and a smoking heap of ash is not the fact that all of these people died. It's that something beautiful arises out of that struggle, that there is something that outlives the tragedy. That speaks to a new generation or something else. That sacrificial hero has to be borne out at some level in that tragedy. We get attached to these people. We want them to make something of this. If the tragedy must happen, let it happen with some sort of beauty or a reason. Let there be, even if it ends and it all ends badly, to still walk out with your head held high. You know what? If that's what's going to happen to me, I'm still going to die my best death because I'm going to do.
At the end of the day, that's all we want is we want our misery to mean something. We want every tragedy to have a point and have a purpose. And while it's all good. Hopefully you're winning.
Hopefully.
But like we want everything to have purpose and meaning, and life doesn't always give you that, but we want that, and I think that's why, like, the stories that reflect that are the ones that are oftentimes the most popular.
That is true.
Like the whole like for example, have you guys ever seen the movie John Q?
Yes.
Like there's that whole storyline where this woman gets into a car crash and she's an organ donor and she's a perfect match for the kid, and it's like her death saves the kid's life, and they don't tell you it right away. It's kind of something that has to build to it. Yeah, John Q is actually a really good movie, I gotta say.
It is. It's a very good movie. Very underrated. I always been my main Pikachu.
Yeah, what was that movie? Okay, I think it was called Split, where a guy was.
Multiple personality.
I think I know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I'm just curious. Where do you think I'm gonna go?
The ending, why he let her go.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm conflicted too on why on that. I can't make up my mind really. Yeah. I'm assuming because he had some type of like he accepted something, or he just
Okay, and that's a very good point, Wizard Brain.
To kind of expand, so the big kind of shock,
spoilers ahead.
Spoilers for a movie that's been out for like 5 to 10 years. You've been warned. So basically, you have the main woman who's played by Anna Taylor-Joy, who's actually one of her first big roles. Basically, she's quartered in a cage. And I guess you can see her midriff, and you can see the scars of her cutting, and all throughout the movie, she's unnaturally calm. She's used to traumatic situations, because her father or stepfather is abusive, and she's a cutter, and basically the Beast, which is so Split is about this character who has an exaggerated form of multiple personality sort of. I can't remember what the modern
variant is called.
Yeah, it's an exaggerated version, and the Beast is like a super powered version kind of thing. And he lets her go because she's one of the broken ones. And that's kind of I think what Wizard Brain was trying to go for about pain being sources of triumph.
Yeah, because I was like, because as I said before, I told Phoenix, and when we talk sometimes, if I watch a movie and I like it, but don't watch it for a long time, I kind of forget vague stuff. So I was like, I know he lets her go, and And I was like, it was either because he like related to her somehow, or because of pain and something like that, like as Phoenix said.
And this is a very underrated example because it technically leads to two different characters. But Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. Say what you will about the Chosen One and bringing balance. At the end of the day, Anakin was one of the few in the Jedi Order who chose to have some semblance of humanity, some semblance of normality and wanting a life and a family. Because his biggest motivation, if it's not his friends, if it's not Obi-Wan, it was his wife, Padme. Now, you can say that Anakin and Padme's relationship is toxic, especially by modern standards. You can say that. But
oh, Anakin, we can't be together. I say this while I'm wearing a very sexy dress and we're in a room with a fire, and it's like the most romantic thing ever.
Can I please finish my point?
Okay.
Oh, guys.
Thank you. But essentially, to make it a long story short, what tips Anakin over to the dark side, and it's intentionally drastic, is literally the same situation with his mother, because he lost one. That's one of the few connections he had in his life. Obi-Wan, he tried to be a mentor / father figure, but it was more of a brotherly dynamic. Qui-Gon, he lost tragically. His mother was, well, it's implied, but something she was tortured by the Tusken Raiders, and he doesn't want to lose Padme, his wife, the one he loves, who's bearing his children. So everything Anakin does in Revenge of the Sith is literally adjacent to a father protecting and providing for his family. He did what any paternal figure would have done in that situation. Not as drastically, mind you, but relatively so.
Now, I would definitely say that's in the background, but really the true breaking point of Anakin was the moment where he's too dangerous to be left alive. Because remember, like there's that scene in the beginning of the movie where he kills Dooku, and Sidious says, it's okay. He was too dangerous to be left alive. And then And then Mace is like, Anakin's like, he should be tried, put on trial. And then Windu
he has influence over the Senate and the courts. He's too dangerous to be left alive.
And that's literally the moment that breaks Anakin's head, because even up to that moment, he's still trying to do the right thing. Even up to that very split second where he goes over the hill, he's still Anakin Skywalker. But as soon as Mace Windu says he's too dangerous to be left alive, like literally Anakin is playing. Sidious said those exact same words to him. So in his mind, there is no difference between the Jedi and the Sith. So he's literally like, okay, there's no difference between these people. I'm going to side with a person who maybe can save Padme. And yeah, sure, there's he's kind of in the motion of the moment. Like, that's why you get like the tear of Anakin. The tear, like, I'm sorry. The prequels have more depth than people give it credit for.
It does.
There's one of the reasons that we see the prequels fall flatter with the first generation of Star Wars.
The originals.
Yeah, the originals, those of us who grew up with it. One of the reasons why is because in reality, I've seen in my own life and with others a situation similar to Padme's. I've actually seen a point where people have to make a choice. Do I die or do I let my children live?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
They actually choose differently. And so when you haven't been through it yet, you think, oh, this would break me. This would actually change my life. I've already been in a situation where you have the Sith versus the Jedi and you go, I'm supposed to be the good guy. This is happening. They're telling me I'm too dangerous to be allowed to be this way. And I've seen people overcome that. So when you're in your 30s and 40s and you watch your friends or yourself go through that situation and you choose differently, you realize that darkness has to be so much deeper. Those things that happen in our lives that just happen to happen, there is a point of rising above. And so I think that's why it fell flat, because for those of us who are already on that side, who had grown up and seen A New Hope, and it ended with those characters to say, we already know what we had to do to choose. We already know how we chose. We know how we did that with the choice we made to save a child and to save ourselves, or to try to do the right thing. And it didn't turn us. Now, there are people who it does, and we understand that. But those who believe in that heroism and the sacrificial hero realize that we make a different choice. And so that's kind of why we felt like it wasn't enough darkness, because we've seen it. We've had those choices. Do I live and they die? What's going to happen next? Am I going to...
I feel like that's why I feel like the ending of Revenge of the Sith makes Return of the Jedi even better. Like when you put the ending of those two trilogies, like Anakin's choice, I had to put that up.
It's
So-
Zelda time.
Anakin's choice and then Luke's choice are mere parallels of each other.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
they're not very
'cause
far apart.
Let him talk. Let him talk.
Luke is
Okay,
trying
okay.
to save his father. Okay, like Luke has to make the choice: save the rebellion or save,
His father.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I think and I really think Revenge of the Sith just makes Anakin's choice even better. Like the sequels make the original trilogy better. That's the thing. Like that's really the best part of them, because if you look at it as a complete saga, it works.
Yes.
Because like you see like the moment when Vader says, "It's too late for me, my son." Like you feel that. Like having watched the prequels, you feel that. Like that is the first time that really Anakin Skywalker is starting to come out. Like obviously Rebels, Anakin kind of came out for a second in the fight with Ahsoka, blah,
Briefly,
blah, blah.
very briefly.
But like at that moment, that is not Darth Vader saying that. That is Anakin that says it's too
Yep.
late for me, and then he's like, "Oh, you have failed, Emperor. I am a Jedi like my father before me." And then like he's getting electrocuted, and Anakin makes the second like, "I'm probably gonna die, but I'm not gonna make the wrong choice again," because he knows.
Yeah, it does complete that cycle. We get a chance to see it, and I think that's we have to have that redemption. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, I chose to be evil, and somebody's going, but I went through that when I was 35, and I didn't go evil. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's why like the prequels.
Because
the
I
prequels,
feel
the
like-
prequels did what the sequels wanted to do. The prequels enhance the original trilogy. They enhance it.
Yes.
The sequels don't. Okay, they like
It's
the
very
Emperor
flat.
coming back literally ruins the ending of Return
Yep.
of the Jedi. It ruins
Yes.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can't believe they did that. Like, you just like
That's
undermine
jumping
what
the shark
everything
if I've
that
ever seen it.
Skywalker went through. Like, and Darth Vader, because Darth Vader overcame his darkness and threw the Emperor Palpatine down the endless chute.
that's the
You
point.
know?
He chooses his child. That is, he finally chooses his child instead
See-
of I want this for me. He chooses his child, and he says, "You are my son, and I will sacrifice for you." And how many of us have been through that in our own lives, where we had prayed to God that our own father would do that for us?
Like
How
it's like that really beautiful moment where Luke says, "Father, I need to save you," and they just looks up and it says, "You already have." Like,
Aw,
Yeah, like,
yeah, that's why I was so mixed, because when I watched the Anakin, before he became Darth Vader, I agreed that when the Jedi were like, "Oh, you're not allowed to show emotion, or it needs to, everything." Because I'm pretty new to Star Wars. I only
Okay, I can go ahead and break that misconception right now. The purpose is to find balance. That way, you don't allow indulgences
See,
or
Yeah.
negative emotions to sway
Oh,
you. That's the point.
also that is a corruption of the Jedi, because the Jedi only enacted that in the last 1,000 years. So we're kind of entering an EU territory here.
Okay.
So
Oh yeah, because I agree with
the Rusan
Blaze.
Accords. Basically, after the Battle of Rusan, they kind of reorganized the Jedi, because before the Battle of Rusan, and this is kind of like the Rule of Two, Darth Bane, kind of stuff. The Jedi actually were very segmented. They were temples all across the galaxy. Like states versus a central government kind of thing. So after the Battle of Rusan, they centralized their authority on Coruscant.
Hmm.
Have a good weekend, my friend.
Yep. You too.
He-
And so that's when the Jedi they took out the emotion part of it, because they're so scared of the Sith. See,
Yeah.
The problem is, and this is kind of like this is why during the 1,000 years you saw Dark Jedi happen all the time. Like Jedi were leaving the Order like flies, because it turns out you can't shut off your emotions.
Yeah, that's what I was
Like
gonna
literally,
go
if
with.
they just get Anakin in front of a therapist, god damn it!
Yeah,
That's
that's what I
such
was
an easy
like,
fix.
Mhm.
This is why it's really important they killed Qui-Gon in that first movie, because if Qui-Gon was still alive by Revenge of the Sith, what would have happened is he would have counseled Anakin, and Anakin would have felt comfortable to come with him about it.
Yes.
He would have said, "You need to tell the council They might kick you out, but you will still have them, and I will do everything in my power to make sure she's safe and alive. And by the way, here's the other thing that the council should have done. The council should have taken Shmi, put her on another planet, and basically, so that Anakin knew, like, okay, she's not a slave anymore. She's somewhere safe. You can't see her, but maybe record a video message of her, like, hey, I'm on Naboo. I got this really great job. I'm safe. I'm happy.
Like basic data logs, like once every few months or once a year, something like
or
that.
Just something, or not, or just one, so that Anakin knows she's safe, because that was a good source of pain for him. Just him knowing that, like, okay, I know she's safe. I can't see her anymore, but I know she's safe. She's being taken care of. I don't have to worry.
Now, Qui-Gon did have enough credits on him to buy Anakin's freedom. He did have enough credits to buy Anakin's freedom at the time. He just didn't have enough for both of them.
And I guarantee you, if Qui-Gon had lived, he would have gone back for sure, because he knows.
Yeah.
He knew, because he wanted to take Shmi with him. Like even if he never,
I feel like the only way that would have worked, where you get a 2 for the price of 1, is if he ended up trying to marry Shmi or something like that. I feel like that's the only way that would work.
No. What would have happened is he would have come back with more force, and it's like, okay, we're taking her. If you have a problem, talk to this lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Watto, you have a problem with it? Here, talk to this lightsaber. It wants to say hi.
And you already had Liam Neeson. There was a way to keep Qui-Gon in. I would have kept Liam Neeson and just killed Qui-Gon off in the second film. That way you get more emotional impact. Like, okay, this is why, because he loses the strongest emotional connection in his life. Anakin is broken at the very foundation. Obi-Wan tries to console him, but Anakin wants revenge for Qui-Gon. They tried to give that. They ended up giving that role to Smee and her actress, but it wouldn't have hit the same way.
Imagine if in that final battle, Duke, like, it was okay, here's a rewrite for you. So it's a battle, and you have Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and kind of thing. And Obi-Wan's kind of been in here, like they've interacted, because Qui-Gon's his own Jedi Knight now, but he's still but so basically it's Count Dooku versus Qui-Gon, and Count Dooku kills his own apprentice. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So at the sight of that, Anakin takes
Qui-Gon's
lightsaber, and he actually taps into the dark side for the first time, and he cuts off the arms of Dooku.
Basically, what happened?
No. I got you one better. And so he doesn't kill Dooku, but he maims him. And so Dooku comes back as General Grievous in the next film.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that makes more story. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Because I think General Grievous is like a cyberized Trandoshan. No.
Yeah, he's something.
I can't make my mind up about him either. He's like half robot, half something.
He was an alien that was badly injured and was reconstructed.
What you do is you basically have him do the voice, because like it will be a lot easier to get him to do the voice for General Grievous for the whole movie than just getting him back for one day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it would put a lot of emotional weight into his character.
It was true. Go ahead, Jahi. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, I'm actually planning a what if based on that very concept. What if Qui-Gon survived? So this is actually giving me good material. But thank you, Savage Terrible. Grievous was an alien general. He's basically the bag of leftovers in a robot. But I feel like the way this could work, especially, is if I'm not saying like Qui-Gon somehow gets the upper hand or Obi-Wan makes it through the ray shields in time. I feel like the best way that Qui-Gon could actually survive the Duel of the Fates is literally if he parries, and like, because remember, if you go by the novels, the EU novels specifically, Qui-Gon does know how to tap into the dark side. He's done it on multiple occasions. So I feel like the best scenario is set for a brief moment, very brief moment, Qui-Gon taps into the dark side, overpowers Maul. He's the one who cuts him in half, and then Maul falls into the shaft. Like Qui-Gon wins, but at a price.
Go ahead. Qui-Gon needs to be the Paragon, so I don't necessarily agree with that. So I'm gonna disagree. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I disagree with it.
I just feel like if you kept him at least to the second film, you could have gotten more emotional impact out of it.
Yeah, but Qui-Gon needs to be the Paragon. Like he needs to be the like.
That's fair.
That's
fair. That's fair. He's a tragic figure. He's gonna. That's fair.
So I'm gonna get nerdy for you for a moment. So one of the problems with Qui-Gon versus Maul is both of them are Form 4 Ataru users. The problem is Qui-Gon basically stripped out the aerial aspect of Ataru. Because like Ataru is like very aggressive, a lot of flips and whatnot, and Qui-Gon used a modified version of Ataru. Actually, Obi-Wan was using Ataru in Episode 2, but after his fight, he switched to Form 3 Sarisu, and basically Obi-Wan became known as the preeminent Sarisu user. I'm sorry, you're getting nerdy here. We are getting nerdy here. So if we're talking about lightsaber forms, Dooku was Form 2 Markashi, which is basically fencing, which they did that because Christopher Lee had fencing experience. But the thing is, Anakin used Form 5 Jiam-So. Like, Form 5 is actually split in two different parts. Jiam-So is like, kind of like, it's like all-out attack, like using against you. So, like, that's kind of like the framing device for the battle of the heroes is the ultimate attack versus the ultimate defense.
Yes. Form 5 versus Form 3. Okay.
Yeah, these two are the preeminent users of those forms. So it's like, defense versus attack and whatnot, power versus experience. Like that's kind of like the framing device they use for it. Like, I'm sorry, I had to go nerdy for you for a moment.
Go ahead. That's fine. But I just feel like even if you didn't want to keep Qui-Gon in that Paragon role, I still like if you actually delayed it to where I just feel like that if I were going to make a what if about what if Qui-Gon survived, maybe what if Dooku went after them? What he sensed a disturbance. He was this because remember, Tales of the Jedi also Phantom Menace was a time where Dooku was still conflicted. He didn't join Sidious until after Qui-Gon died.
Yeah, he left the Order after Qui-Gon because like he was disgusted with how they handled that situation.
Yeah. So I feel like if Dooku actually acted on his confliction and went to Naboo, because you have Qui-Gon, Dooku, and Obi-Wan. No, okay, Obi-Wan would probably go with Anakin to make sure he didn't run off or hurt himself. So it would be Dooku versus Maul. And then Maul, with being Sidious's second apprentice, kind of throws a little dig about Dooku not being what he's meant to, what he's meant to be, or what he says he is. That's that moment of hesitation with Qui-Gon. And we can follow the canon route where Maul cheap shots Qui-Gon, or Dooku gets in the way, taking the blow himself.
Yeah.
You want to know a fun fact about Episode 1?
Yes.
So, Darth Plagueis, Sidious's master, doesn't actually die until like the last, like when Palpatine steps on Naboo, as the Chancellor. It's only like basically that's when he's actually the master at that point, because it was right before that scene that he killed
Plagueis.
So Plagueis was alive for most of Episode 1. I just find that fascinating.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm told about the very end of it, and I think in the novel he was poisoned in his sleep, or did Sidious stab him?
What they did is basically once they got Sidious as Chancellor, they celebrated, they got drunk and whatnot, and then Plagueis fell asleep, and then Sidious went unlimited power on him.
Oh, Force Lightning broiled him alive. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty new to the thing, so I'm trying to expand my knowledge of Star Wars into like I'm watching the anime, not the anime, but the animation series, and I've yet to watch.
Clone Wars 03.
Okay, I got. I have some.
I know. I'm noob. So, and I've yet to read any of the Star Wars books yet. I plan on doing that.
Recommendations: Star Wars reading recommendations. Here you go. You need to read the Darth Bane trilogy.
Yes.
Start with that. The Darth Plagueis novel, which explains a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
Heir to the Empire, because like they're pretty much adapting. They are literally adapting that storyline for like the Mandoverse.
For Ahsoka.
Yeah, I think I asked you about that, but I was rambling on in my tweet.
I like to call it the Clone Saga, but it was the Return of the Empire,
Yeah.
which is what they basically ripped
What
off
other
in Rise of
books do you
Skywalker.
recommend she check out for a primer on Star Wars?
Yeah, because
Ooh.
I have been trying to watch the animation series, and I think it was like it's a big series. Like it's like about Anakin and Ahsoka, pretty
Is it-
much.
Clone Wars.
Clone Wars.
Yeah, and it was confusing me, like because it was like I would understand some parts like what was going on, but it would jump somewhere where it would totally lose me. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll
Okay.
try to follow it. Yeah,
Clone Wars 08 was an anthology series of mini arcs, all compiling together during that 3-year gap. If you want
Oh,
something
okay.
more streamlined, I'd recommend the 03 series. It's a video. Oh, I mean, come on! The General Grievous in Clone Wars 03 was freaking awesome. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Well, no, the CG series. I think you should watch like this. Like start off with the movie, and then
Yeah.
watch all the seasons, and then go to Rebels. As far as animation is concerned,
Yeah,
have you
because that's
seen-
where
have you seen Rogue
I watched the movies first, then went to the animations, and watched the Anakin and Ahsoka because I was curious what Anakin was like before he went, all berserk, and I thought it was very interesting because in the series, like he obviously is kind of quick tempered in the
he's-
anime one. And it made more sense why he turned evil in my mind, because it just seemed like he was more quick on his emotions or something like that, where like he would obviously just like
Okay.
try too hard to be non-emotional to the point where it just sorry if I'm
Obi-Wan
coming
is-
off wrong.
avoid
That's-
Obi-Wan. No,
Avoid
no.
Obi-Wan. Avoid it.
Andor is good.
Oh yeah, Andor. I love Andor.
Have you seen Rogue One?
I have.
Yes.
Yes.
Like I said, I'm watching all the movies, and I just started into the animation, and that's
Have
where
you
like
played
I
any of
started
the video games?
I have. I had played. Was it Jedi? The
Jedi Academy or Jedi Survivor?
No. The one with that Phoenix was playing. He was on his channel. I'm sorry. Jedi
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, and I loved it.
Have you played
I
Star
pretty much-
Wars: Knights of the Republic?
That's
I have not.
What?
Wait,
isn't that the one with
RPG or the original?
Online? Is it the online game? Because I don't got anybody to play with.
Okay. There are two versions of Knights of the Old Republic. You have the original for Xbox, which focused mostly on Revan and Darth Malak.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you have the RPG version, which kind of continues that story, but Revan's characterization in that is mixed.
Okay, I need to revise what you're saying, because KOTOR is an RPG. The Old Republic is an MMO, like World of Warcraft.
Okay.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm getting confused, because like there's so much that I'm like, okay,
Okay,
look,
let's just go by the acronyms. Okay.
okay, sorry.
KOTOR is the standalone RPG that originally came out on the Xbox. It's actually been ported to modern systems, so you can play it on a Nintendo Switch or PC or whatever.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that then. Yeah.
Yeah, like you can play it on your Switch. You can download it right now. PS4, Xbox One, they recently re-released it. And then they made a sequel to that called Star Wars, Knights of the Republic to the Sith Lords.
Yeah.
It's best to play that on the PC because then you can do the restored content mod. And then you also have TOR, Star Wars: The Old Republic. They kind of took out the Knights thing. That's the MMO. So KOTOR and then TOR are the two acronyms you kind of need to remember. TOR is the MMO. SWTOR is what we call it, SWTOR. So when you see SWTOR, that's the MMO. KOTOR is the standalone.
Yeah. I can't wait for Jedi the Survivor. I'm just on my edge of my seat, like.
It looks good, but the fact that the villain is from the High Republic kind of turns me off a bit.
Oh.
Because
Yeah.
High Republic is Kathleen Kennedy's garbage initiative, and I don't
I
want no
heard
part of it.
mixed things about it. I heard a lot
No,
of
you
people
want to say
say
something?
sorry. Oh, sorry.
One of the things that when I'm listening, and this has been a theme over and over again, and we see when you guys were talking about it, I was really impressed with Jay Heat and Wizard and you, as you're talking about all these different dynamics. One dynamic keeps coming back over and over again. And this is how you want to focus yourself on what it is you're really looking for, whether it's from Star Wars, whether it's from DC, Marvel, or from the heroes you're writing. 9 times out of 10, we come from 2 different stances, one when we're younger and one when we're older. We are looking for someone to ride in and save us. If you've ever been in a situation where you've been bullied or you've been tormented or you've just been left behind by your dad, nobody knows where this guy is, but you're dreaming he's going to come back and save you. You're dreaming he's going to show up one day and go, I love you, I chose you.
I got the cigarettes.
Yes. Yeah, I finally got the cigarettes. I came back. And I choose you. And then there's the point where we have to become that person. We have to become that man or that woman, the sacrificial hero. The reason the franchises are failing is because they no longer have that sacrificial hero. When you talked about Kathleen Kennedy's turn away from that, where the good guys will always go bad, where it's all been for nothing, where you've been trying to save this universe or this person or this thing, and it's for nothing. They're
the anti-hero protagonist.
Let her talk. Let her cook.
Yeah. At this point where you are reaching out not only for the you used to be, whether it's the person that was dreaming that this man, this woman would come through and finally save you, to becoming that person where you turn around in your life and you go, I have to be that hero. I have to be the sacrificial hero. We long for those elements to remain in our lives. And when we see them being destroyed by the houses that created them, we are letting go of a portion of ourselves as creators, as administrators, or as writers, as the reviewers of these fictions. We have, or the creators of the comics, whatever it is that we are doing as indie writers, we have to embrace the fact that that sacrificial hero is central to every mythos that has ever been created. And when I hear you guys talking about what's right with it and what's wrong with it, it always comes back to the fact that not only do we lose that person that would have come back to save us, those greatest moments in Star Wars are when Anakin literally turns to his son and says, I choose you.
You already have.
I'll choose you over whatever else it was I walked away for. I'm choosing you now. I'm choosing you now. I choose you. Finally, out of all these years, I finally love you. I am choosing you. And then the moment in your life when you become Anakin, you make that choice to be the sacrificial hero. We're choosing this and we want this and we have to create it. They are not wanting to give you that anymore. Why? Because they don't want you to be the sacrificial hero. You are the hero in your story. You are the one that's going to save not only yourself, but your children or your community or your fans or anything else. The people that are longing for this content are turning to you. What will you give them? And we have to be able to give it to them. And to love these franchises as they were and what they gave me. Nobody can ever take away from me what A New Hope gave to me. A New Hope gave to me my father sitting beside me in the theater, reaching up and just suddenly shouting at the end of it because he was so thrilled at the ending that the heroes had won. They can't take that away from me. Nothing they can do to the franchise can take that away. Nothing they can do to the franchise can take away what Superman actually means to me or Batman actually means to me. But if I keep looking to them to give me that back, those people that are in there right now don't love the sacrificial hero. You do. Every last one of you is saying, I wanted to see success. I wanted to see the sacrificial hero. Write the story. Write it. Create it.
Yeah.
What do you talk, Wizard Brain?
That's why it's like, yeah, we want those characters back. I do. I unfortunately didn't grow up with comics, but even I want that. It's like, it's just, you see the same thing over and over again. You're like, okay, I do like, Kick-Ass, and I do like, I did like the first Shazam movie, and then the other, like, kid characters where they do it in a good comedy type of way, but you overrun it, and to the point where you just, like, just make the character totally bleak. That's where you lose me. And degrade the first character, like making Luke Skywalker drink blue titty milk. And just like, that's never gonna leave my mind.
See, the thing is,
this is underrated, but it's a perfect analogy. You're basically combating nostalgia versus new ideas, and
that's essentially Star Wars' problem. Is it's kind of caught in between this rock and a hard place of. People are here for nostalgia, but you also need to kind of move the story forward. And I feel like the problem is that we're getting the worst of both worlds. We're getting we're getting surface level nostalgia, like, hey, look, it's that thing. We put it on the wall. You happy? Now clap like the trained seals we want you to be.
Woo!
Basically, member berries from South Park. Member.
I still
Oh yeah, I
maintain.
remember berries from Star Trek. Yeah, man.
Oh,
I still maintain there is a kernel of a good story in the sequel trilogy. Like, I feel like I like the idea of Kylo Ren. Like, I like the idea of legacy, the burden of legacy.
Thank you.
Like, I like the idea of Kylo Ren being like, I'm the grandson of Darth Vader. I'm the son of Leia and Han, like Leia and Han Solo. You know, all these important people living up to that legacy. You know,
and
of course,
collapsing under the pressure. It's very.
So here's how I like, and the thing is, that point with Luke. Here, it can work with just one small tweak, but it changes everything. So what you do is you still have Luke sense the evil in him, but the problem is, he saw the evil, but he didn't see the good.
Yeah.
But he thought about killing him. He thought about it. Okay. He didn't ignite his lightsaber. He thought about it for the briefest of moments. But the thing is, Kylo Ren sensed the evil, and he thought his master was about to turn on him.
Yeah.
So you basically make it that they're both sensing the evil within each other, and so that's why Kylo Ren attacked him, and Luke realizes that, and that's why he suppressed. That's why he failed, and in that situation, it's more understandable because everyone has these dark thoughts. Everyone, like, you bump into him. Someone bumps into you, you think about murdering them for a split second. That's natural. Everyone has those thoughts, okay? Like, someone cuts you off, you think about blowing up their car and slaughtering them mercilessly, but you don't actually do it. Everyone understands that you have these dark thoughts. You have these briefest of thoughts. And how cool would it be to have a plot point based around those dark thoughts, and basically people sense that in you, and it got exploited, and it literally destroyed everything. That is something that everyone can relate to. Instead of literally trying to kill him, it became, I had a moment of weakness, and it ruined my life. Like, everyone has those dark moments of weakness inside of them. So it turns Luke from it turns that whole moment from like, this is Luke acting out of character to Luke being more human. He's still Luke, but he's a little more human. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, well, even the
Luke turned to the dark side and
I-
turned to the Jedi. Like, when he mentioned
Yeah.
Leia, he wanted to kill his father, but he turned back. And that's the whole point, is Luke is not this paragon of virtue. He still has his moments of weakness. And he can have that moment of weakness, and it got exploited, and the whole Paraxium got destroyed. And that's why he's isolated himself, because he feels like
He failed.
and by the way, I would change it to where Luke doesn't force project himself there. He actually goes there and fights him, and he puts him on the ground, and Kylo says, "Kill me. It's what you've always wanted to do." And he's like, "No, I'm not. That's not the Jedi way." And then Kylo stabs him. I'm sorry, that would work. Like you want to talk about subverting expectations? You think you're gonna get the happy ending, because that would perfectly be within Kylo's character. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Especially in this storyline. Like, just imagine, like, I can literally see the framing in my head. We're on that salt thing, and like,
Crate, I think it's called.
yeah, whatever. It's salt. And then, like, you see it, and you got the wide shot where, like, he shoves his lightsaber into him, and then sorry, I'm envisioning a better movie.
But okay.
Yeah, but that would be cool, but also it'd be so tragic. Like I know, like it'd be good, but it'd be a split audience. Some people would love that, and other people like they just killed Luke.
You weren't gonna please everyone, but it's much more organic than what we got.
I think
Yeah,
if you're going, like, I basically, I'm just doing what they did, but I'm trying to make it work. I'm changing a few things to do the same thing, but make it work.
Oh, okay.
And this is an unpopular. This is very underrated. But I believe Jeff Johns, It was Infinite Crisis, the second one in the Crisis pantheon.
Yeah.
And basically you have like Superboy Prime, basically pretty much conflicting from the Golden Age and the Silver Age to now. Infinite Crisis was pretty much a manifesto of the anti-heroes, the edginess, the muscles, pretty much the extreme era of 1995 of the late 90s. And how Superboy is just breaking down. He just wants things to go back to how they used to be, where things were a little bit brighter, things were a little bit greener, things were actually making a difference. Where, and compared to where the League was broken up, you had all the mental manipulation leading up to this and other stories like Identity Crisis, and just everything going on. And then all of a sudden, Superboy just breaks, because at the end of the day, he's just a kid who doesn't know any better, and he's only seeing things from a narrow view. And then the moment one of the Titans get in his face, the moment he accidentally kills someone, he's not emotionally stable enough to handle it. He just lashes out, and and the only thing he has to cling to is that point. Like everything's dark around him. They're wrong. It shouldn't be like this. All the sacrifice from the original Crisis, everything we gave up. It's no different than what Wizard Brain was talking about with that book. It's basically the same reaction, is that you don't. Whereas the reader, or in this case, Superboy Prime, doesn't have the emotional stability to handle that situation, and he lashes out because of it.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect. I said once again, as writers, we say to ourselves, okay, who are we writing for? Are we writing for you have to write for the person that you see in your mind, the story that's already in you, and you have to satisfy that person. If you are writing for you when you were 18, you keep writing that story. If you're writing Wizard Brain, for instance, you have that traumatic experience with Circle Freak, then you're going to go ahead and write out this sequence of how you really felt maybe it should have gone for you as that reader that first time. And then there's some of us that are writing for the reader that we are now, that the person that's gone through all these other experiences. And there's that resonance that occurs with failure. When you see failure and then you see rising up. One of the things I noticed in the next book, there's this thread of he fails first. And then we get to see him try to do this redemptive arc. You're reaching him from rock bottom up to the top. But this is not a guy that's just been always at rock bottom. He was once something great, and he wants to be great again in his heart of hearts, even though he doesn't believe it yet and hasn't really come to that conclusion yet. He's still wrestling with
that. Like this is kind of an important plot point in Lost Kingdom, where like he can't start to change unless he wants to change. Like the kind of the campfire and Venus is kind of my come to Jesus moment. It's kind of like it's a very emotional kind of like very emotional plot point where basically he makes a decision like, I want to be the person I was before, and that doesn't magically make him that way, but it does allow him to go on that path, because even up to that point, he was not on his redemption arc. Like his redemption arc didn't even start until halfway through the book. He had to decide he wanted to redeem himself. And another like plot point that I'm really proud of is like him and the kid kind of start to bond a little bit. And one of my favorite lines is he says, "You think one moment can make up for 15 years worth of trauma?" You know, and so he needs a little bit more time, kind of thing. And like, there's just some moments in that book that are just beautiful, honestly.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. You're fighting for that thing. And then when I talk like with Wizard and with Jay Heat, each of you has that point in your history, who you are writing for, who you are creating for, whether it's art, music, writing, whatever. You are creating for a point in time for yourself. You are actually creating for that human being. How can you give that person? Now, Nick has sort of a unique approach, because he actually has a young person and an older person, and they're two sides of the coin, basically, the young idealist versus the person who has failed. And they're going to go on the arc together as they reach this point. But we all write for the person that we have been, the person who needs to hear our story, and that's us. So I'm going to ask a question, and I want to say, we're going to start with you, Wizard, and I want to go to Jay Heat after this. The story that you're writing, Wizard, tell me what this character is going to do for you, the reader, that you didn't get, the thing that you needed, that you were so hungry for that you didn't get. what are you going to do with your character to make this arc be what you needed it to be?
Female struggle and failure, pretty much. Like I read a bunch of books, and I'm like, people are probably gonna blast me for this, but I just like male authors and male writers more generally. I do over women. I do have some favorite women. I do. I just like the action, and I like the lore, and I like the male characters, the strong male characters, and typically that's done by, other male authors or stuff like that. And I'm not saying it can't be done. So my attempt is to take what I like about that and make it a female-based thing, but have a female that will struggle, she will fail, she will lose a whole bunch of stuff. But in the end, I only have one book so far. I do plan to have on these, maybe I'll be lucky if it's 3 or 4, where you will see her fail, you will see her lose about almost everything that she held dear in her life, but still keep going on. Like, it's about encouragement and trying to dig deep down in your soul to keep pushing forward, no matter how much you cry, no matter how much what's going on, no how much pain, how much suffering you're feeling, to just keep pushing forward. So that's definitely from me as I'm going to attempt to write for like a main female character where she's gonna go through a lot of stuff, but she keeps going forward, not letting it overcome her, not letting not because thing is, in my certain chapter I explain about where she experiences something very traumatic happening to her, where I take something in my own life but mix it a little bit, where something very tragic happens to her and she starts to have very dark thoughts where she's just like, where she thinks that she's just better off not being on the planet anymore. So I take that and how do you come back from that darkness, that pit of thinking you're better off dead, and how you come back from that and build yourself up. And that's what my goal is with my main character, is to express how like a woman that will fail and then experience that, and how she can climb out of that, basically.
No, I think that's fantastic. That's beautiful. And I'm going to come back to y'all in just a minute because I've got something for you. But Jay-Heat, what are you writing?
Before we get to Jay-Heat, listening to Wizard Brain kind of reminded me of a scene from one of my favorite shows. As soon as I show this, you guys will know it. So it's about 2 minutes long. I just want to kind of play it for you guys real quick.
When you can't run, you crawl. And when you can't crawl, when you can't do that, you find someone to carry you.
By the way, if you haven't seen Firefly, you really need to.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Gosh, a huge influence on my book.
Yeah, I didn't want to play the rest of the scene because, one, I don't want to get struck down. 2, I start crying. So
yeah, you're gonna cry.
All right, Jay-Heat, you're up.
Tell me, what is your character going to do? Is going to bring to the table for you as the reader that you needed, that you didn't get it. Maybe you're not getting it right now. What is your character bringing?
Okay, imagine an occultist, basically just Okay, my story kind of takes place like during the 1920s, during the Great Depression, where alcohol is prohibited, crime is up. This is 1920s New York City. It's more of a noir piece, but to make it a long story short, his family is tragically killed by the mob. And they weren't even targeting him. They just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And then the market crashes, panic, society collapses around him. And then somehow, some way, he comes across a bright light. And this light gives him a choice. You can take this power and get your revenge, or you can live your mundane existence. Now, he chooses revenge. He has to make this. He makes this choice, and the next thing he knows, years pass. Everything's like a blur, and then all of a sudden, it's literal Armageddon. It's like everything's on fire, demons about, and like he's one of the last humans left alive, knowing full well he's the one who damned everyone because he wanted revenge, and he has this very Hellboyish, demon-like appearance, to where he's not even remotely human anymore. And he has to rediscover his humanity. That one act of selfishness, one moment of weakness, essentially led to a paradox and everything crumbling around him. So not only does he have to face hell itself, he needs to make peace with himself to right what he's wronged and find that inner peace. That's basically the story I was going with, but I couldn't find a way to make it work. I didn't want to make it like gimmicky or like time travel, but I definitely wanted a Punisher like redemption story, if that makes sense.
No, I think it's fantastic. What I have, go ahead. I want you to finish your statement.
And to me, I feel like the way it would personally affect me is that even though we make the best out of a bad situation, we're constantly conflicted. We could still make peace with it. We could still ultimately say, yes, it was a long road to get here, but I made the right choice in the end. I don't really care about me. I don't care what happens to me. I just want what I should have made. I just want peace and just to be free of this pain.
And that's super hugely deep. What I want to give for each of you, and it's something that authors right now are very demonized. If they say, oh, you inserted yourself. We are humans. We have our experiences. There's a reason that AI cannot write the story the way the human does. It's because we have our own failures. We actually recognize our failures. We recognize the flaw, the weakness, the moment of pain. We recognize the moment when we truly couldn't fight back. The triumph is in deciding that the story doesn't come out of being a victim, and that we're a victim for the rest of the story, and it all ended is one of the worst stories ever told. And it is the story of every failed IP, or just lately, Velma, others, where it's just about being a victim and being abused and staying that way and just being mad about it.
Or the abused becoming the abuser and taking a sadistic joy out of it.
And so instead you have trying to write a story about what could have happened or that we could make it go right. We are writing about ourselves. No matter what we do, we have to stop being ashamed of saying my experience, who I am, and how it shaped me and how it shapes the story is part of my journey. We can't let people take that away from us. J-Heat, Wizard, Nick, you're writing your own hero arc. You are writing your own redemption stories. You are writing your life. Every time you will put yourself into this person, you are writing about what you hope and dream will happen for you. You mustn't let people take this away from you as an author. We all must write the story we have inside of us. And it goes back to the same thing we talked about with Lucas and others. When they stray from the vision of who it is they really are and the moment of that need and what happens and how do we find that fulfillment and peace in it? How do we find that redemption, the sacrifice that we have to make or we wish somebody had made for us? That's where it comes to life for the author. Let it consume you. Let it become the story. We aren't going to find your story in anyone else. I could go out there and go to Marvel. I will never hear J-Heat's story. I will never hear that story of the man who made the mistake and he came back and he fixed it and found peace. I will never hear the story about the woman who actually faced down her own trauma, came back, fought it off, overcame it, rose with the light, and becomes a light for somebody else. I will never find the story, Nick, about the man who faces his own dark past and in the same time embraces not only his future, but the future of the person he was before, the child in the story. I will not find your stories anywhere else. I cannot see them in Marvel or DC because they are soulless corporations. You must create these wonderful stories. No one else is going to do it for us. We need you as authors, as creators, as artists, as musicians to write your story, to sing your song, to put your vision to the paper. Don't let anything take the place of that. Stop looking to places where they don't love you and don't want your input. We need you. Somebody needs to read your story. You wouldn't have it in you if it wasn't the case. I want to see these stories. When will you start on your journey of writing this? Nick, I already know you are. Jahit, I already know you are. Wizard, I already know you are. But I'm looking at you. I'm already looking at you. There's somebody out here that's watching this right now, and I want to know, what are you going to do? I want to hear your story. You're the only one that can tell it. You've got a redemption arc. It's time for us to write it. We're going to get it done. And it starts here, and it starts now.
That's good. That's good.
Snow, I must say, you've probably given me like 3 to 4, at least 3 or 4 different segments that I'm gonna have to clip out and release as like actual, like, you know, because you know how they do like some of these, like they do these long podcasts and they kind of clip it out. You've given me like 3 to 4 different segments that like, sorry, you're giving me content, girl. You're giving me good content, some damn good content.
That's what I get for being old. I've already lived this. I've already all the suffering. It's here. It's going to be here.
So we're coming up on the 3-hour mark. This was a really great chat. This wasn't what I was planning to do for the show at all, but that's all part of the frenzy.
Yeah, you know, you go in with one idea, come out with another.
The topics, they're more like a set of guidelines. I need to get that clip. I need to get that.
Yeah, that was funny.
I need to get that as a drop for this show because that's why it's called the Friday Night Frenzy. It's basically we just go with the flow. The topics are there if we lose our place, but if there's a good conversation, I just let it flow. And by golly, this was a good conversation. I wanted to thank everyone out here for coming. You guys are all welcome on the show anytime you want. So I guess we're gonna like wrap this up, and so this has been Nick from the Phoenix Press, and remember, I can only show you the door. You're the ones to walk through it.
Yeah, nice.